It's your co-host, Michael C. Moore.
And your other co-host, Jordan G. Marcos, or as other people know me as JG underscore Mark 1. You have that wrong, by the way, on my title card, but it's K.
Nice. Well,
that's on me for picking complicated numbers and symbols.
exactly.
I'll make it work.
Today, as you can see, we're going to be talking about E3 and critics and stuff. Well, Jordan's really the one who decided today's topic, so he's going to let us in a little bit more on what exactly, like, the direction that he wants to take, and then I'm just going to participate in this lovely conversation with him. Yo, I don't know why, but now when I look at your camera, it looks more deep fried than we set it up to look.
That's fine, man. This camera is cheap. It's meant to hold us over until we can get more professional equipment. So I'm totally fine with it looking the way it does. But to start, I did kind of want to talk about a couple of topics that kind of hurt me a bit this week. Not hurt me, but just they were kind of like low blows. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at the camera. I'm just blasting all media and stuff. But essentially, one thing that kind of hurt me this week was the first thing I saw on Twitter regarding the God of War delay. It's not the delay that affected me, but the way that many fans and people reacted to it, specifically because they started attacking the development team of the game, saying that they were at fault and they were letting the fans down and all that. I mean, honestly, delays are good, right? Especially because I believe in the Shigeru Miyamoto comment where it's like a rush game is definitely bad, but a delayed game is eventually good. I don't know if I said it word for word, like verbatim, but that's like what the quote means, right? Like the longer you take time to work on it, the more likely it's going to be a good project. But what really affected me about it is this one person specifically. She's actually very popular on social media, and it's the only one that caught my eye because I don't follow too many people. Alana Pierce, who's a very prominent figure on Twitter and Twitch, and speaking about like games and all that, and being very communicative in the community, like very embedded in the community. It really affected me in the way that people responded to her and blamed her for actions within the game. Now, I'm not sure what her position is directly in the studio, but from when I last remember, I could have sworn she was just like the blogger / community manager, speaking, with the community and relaying information from the company.
So basically, she had nothing to do with the delay.
Assuming that's what the position is, yes, it affected me because I assumed that she was basically just a regular person, that she's not really a developer, she's not at fault. But these people are going around and throwing some really, really bad words, like calling her, a whore, calling her very. I don't want to get into the rest of the words, but basically they were just saying very disgusting things. How they wish that she could suffer for the actions taken into delaying the game. And then I had to see Cory Barlog, like the director of the game, say, "Hey, I'm the lead guy and I made the decision to delay the game. Do not blame my team." And like, I don't understand that. Like, what's the point of openly attacking somebody like that for no reason? And what's the point of even getting upset? Sure, they're bringing it to PS4, great. So they're going to make more money to make another game and make it even better. The more money they get, the better your game is. So at any moment, you hating on them making it cross-gen for PS4, or anybody hating because, I don't know, the delay, you're only hurting the product. What do you want? Cyberpunk? You want another Cyberpunk? You want Cyberpunk of War?
Cyberpunk of War. Yeah, that's exactly the stuff that damaged Cyberpunk. Well, I mean, the CD Projekt Red had its own problems for Cyberpunk, but one of the biggest problems that people point out is that a lot of people blame the people that rushed the release of Cyberpunk equally or even more so than CD Projekt Red themselves, because that is true. I don't know how many times they delayed the game, probably like 7 times or something, and each time the so-called fans that were being impatient and didn't want to wait for it, would be sending some pretty nasty messages to the people that work over at CD Projekt Red, or they'd be sending death threats and stuff like that. And ultimately, what we got was the release of a completely busted game. So I appreciate the fact that you brought in the quote from that Nintendo executive, because ultimately that's pretty accurate. A finished game, a delayed but finished game is better than one that isn't complete at all. So I completely agree with you there, buddy.
Yeah, that kind of affected me. Now,
the thing is that behavior too, it's not only just, I mean, childish because, right, like one of the things you're supposed to do as you mature is learn like virtuous things such as patience. But
Mhm.
it's also just really damaging because, like, what the hell did you guys accomplish? You basically just savagely and animalistically, tore down and insulted a woman who had nothing. Like, it's already bad enough. Like, you shouldn't be doing that to the people who were even responsible for that decision, which Corey Barlog, you told me that Corey Barlog went ahead and came out and said that he was the one that made that decision anyway.
Exactly.
So if anyone's gonna direct anything towards anyone, it should be towards him. But on top of that, like, why are you even doing that to begin with? Like, just relax. No, and you shouldn't be giving anyone death threats or like demeaning anyone over the delay of any product. Like, it's not a decision for us to do. And I understand that, as a fan, you're gonna want to play all the God of War installments as soon as possible, right? Like, if it was up to me, have up to God of War 15 released right now. But sadly, that's just not the way reality functions.
Exactly. And I mean, you're not gonna get the game faster. One, you're not gonna get the game to be exclusive to PS5. Two, three, the only thing you're doing is actively making somebody wake up to hate mail. Pretty much, you're only hurting the individual. There's no win anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't understand it. I don't understand why people feel this need to just voice their anger like that in a way like, I could understand, hey, I'm upset that the game got delayed. Fine.
Mm-hmm.
You're voicing your anger. Okay, pouty kid. He's not going to get the game immediately. Fine.
Right.
Okay?
I mean, that's one of the
normal.
things that people like to take to the internet to just voice their opinion anyway, right?
But actively going into somebody's DM and messaging them,
degrading them, and just
such hatred, it's just, I have to take a moment of silence right now. I don't know if you want to take the conversation, but I just want to like process my emotions on that because it just pisses me off. Like, it's just, you're just hurting people for no reason, and there's just no reason for it. I'm not gonna stand by it. It's just, whoever that person is, they need to be like,
they need to reevaluate
banned from
their life
Twitter or something. Yeah, they need to feel shunned for a minute so they know what it feels like. Like, kind of like a timeout.
Mm-hmm.
So that way they just know what it feels like to be on the wrong end of the stick. Aside from that, the only other thing that kind of bothered me, it wasn't really a bad thing, it was kind of a nice note. Fireteam Chat, one of my favorite podcasts from, well, it's a Destiny podcast, right? But it was the first podcast I ever really got into. It came out in 2015. I've watched literally every single episode since episode 1, and yesterday was our last episode 300.
Oh, it didn't?
Yeah, well, I mean, they said they're going to bring it back every now and then to do like major coverage, but it's not going to be like a weekly show anymore. Like, they're done with the whole episode thing, and they had a long run for 300 episodes to carry it off of one game in the industry. Sorry, that's hard work to create interesting conversation for 7 years straight on one game.
Yeah, it is a lot of hard work, actually.
Granted, Destiny is easier than a lot of other games because they just have content coming out every other month, right?
Mm-hmm.
But still, it's quite a lot of work, and I commend them for their efforts. They've kept me entertained for many years. They've kept me informed on Destiny, a franchise that I love to this day, despite the fact that I may be tired on it. But it's a little sad that they're going away. But I'm happy to have been part of the journey and to have seen them grow from their little shoebox setup to like now through home setups and having to do it yourself and get ready to keep the show going.
Well, I'm sure that with people like them that have managed to build such a successful show off of just that, they probably built a pretty like sizable audience, and they're probably ready to like move on to like other projects that they're probably going to collaborate with each other on eventually too.
I agree. No, I agree. I mean, I actually spoke to one of them, fortunately on Thursday, and I was trying to give a suggestion. I didn't think it was going to make it, but I just wanted to know a little bit more about what he was going to do. He said he's planning to do like his own show and move on his thing. I know that the other people on the panel have their own channels that you can go to, whether it's a Twitch stream or their direct thing. I mean, obviously it won't be the same thing because what a podcast invites is discussion and debate, which is obviously something that we probably won't see on their own streams or personal channels, but it's still great to have been part of the journey, and I was glad for it. So
that's nice, man. That's pretty, I mean, it's kind of sad news because when you really enjoy something, it's kind of sad to see it go. But you and me, since, we've been getting a little bit of practice here and there, also, starting to be creators, I guess that we kind of empathize with them. Like any creator is gonna empathize with other creators a little bit better because once you actually work in a certain industry, you kind of get how things are. So I can only say that while it's sad that people who, you know, obviously loved Fireteam Chat, right, like people might feel sad to watch the show come to an end, or at least like slow production by quite a lot.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if you really like the people behind the show, I think it's a great opportunity to support them on something that they're actually wanting to go ahead and flip to instead.
No,
you know,
course.
if they want to, you know, take their careers in a different direction, and you really, you know, enjoyed the creators for who they are, then, you know, just support them on their journey. And
I was coming on the show today with a very lighthearted attitude, but when I saw those things, it kind of just brought me down. So I wanted to air those grievances first, and of course, show respect to the people who not only did the show, but also to Alana Pierce, who has to face people like that every day, and not go crazy, right? Because any other person would probably break down and get depressed and all that. She put up with a strong face, and she was able to deal with it. So
I guess since you brought up a couple pieces of current event, I didn't have anything so somber, but I'll let you know a little bit of something that I saw, which just kind of surprised me. It wasn't necessarily something sad, or maybe you think it's sad. I don't know. I'll tell you, get your opinion. I don't know if you saw the article or whatever, but I heard that essentially someone is suing Capcom over the use of certain properties in Resident Evil 4 without permission or something like that.
The evidence is looking pretty darn close. Like, I mean, most people make claims on one or two of things, but they have actively found multiple occasions across the franchise, not just one specific game, but across the franchise of art. Like I said, I think it's like Devil May Cry 4 and 5, and then Resident Evil 7 and 8.
Yeah.
So it's not just like one game or one specific piece of art,
so
like what happened with Uncharted. It's
can
multiple.
you give me a little bit of background that's what's going on to that? Because I just saw a couple of examples where like the Resident Evil 4 logo was specifically like a pile of glass that was scratched or something, and then there was a part where the Resident Evil 4 castle, some of the textures on the wall were from like a wall or something that the person was complaining about. But who is this person? Where are these things coming from? So like, I don't get it.
I don't know much on the story, but I kind of skimmed through an article, so I'll explain it as best as I can. I'm not going to take a direction or opinion on the situation, because obviously I still haven't read the full story. But essentially what happened is there's this photographer artist, kind of like your cousin Omar is doing, where he's taking art and stuff. And a long time ago, like around the 1996 or something, or like somewhere in the 1990s, they created a copyright license for like a book that they have filled with all kinds of art, with specific shots of broken glass, with like it's very specific the way the glass is broken because they shattered it a certain way for the imagery. The art has been painted in certain ways that are very distinct. Sorry, and then the last comment, like for example in Resident Evil 8 or Resident Evil Village, like the whole castle thing, there's a lot of designs based off of that book, which is based off a real life European castle that the person took, where in if you were to go and make a tour, you can't take pictures inside, or supposedly you can't even go inside. Like, she was given a private opportunity to go inside and take these pictures. So it's very weird and very distinct, problematic, but it's very distinct that in the game they have very, very similar art to what's shown. Like, it's almost exactly the same, and it's not just one case or one piece of art or whatever. It's multiple cases across their franchises.
Yikes.
And that's concerning for Capcom. I mean, they might have to settle or agree to pay the licenses or whatever. And granted, I'm sure this is going to change the way they direct their art in the future. I mean, that's just going to happen. I don't know much
hearing a lot of opinions that the evidence seems pretty substantial. I saw a couple of the images. I was just like, yo, that does look pretty identical.
It's very substantial. There's a clear case to be made that something was taken for sure.
Yeah. I was looking at some of the opinions that people were having on this particular issue, and a lot of people says that the evidence is looking pretty strong in favor of like the photographer who's making the claims against them. Now, the only thing that weirds me out is why they waited so long to make the claim, because like Resident Evil 4 is like such an antiquated game. But I was hearing some people make the opinion that the photographer might not be a gamer, or never even played any of the Resident Evil games.
The way that she said it is that the only way she realized that this happened was because Capcom got leaked, or they got hacked or whatever, and they leaked all this information out as to assets and stuff, and it became something of, like, it just piqued her interest at one point, and it came across her.
So the hacker
leaked a bunch of stuff public information.
Yeah, but did the hacker straight up like say like, oh
No,
look,
no, 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 no,
these
no.
assets are stolen or something.
No, no, no. They just showed the art files of it, and then the art files. Okay, you remember that when we did the Genshin Impact episode?
Yeah.
And then like there was like a video that you could see where like you could see the person like actively pointing at how they drew inspiration from indigenous cultures and all that.
Yeah, yeah.
Same thing like that. There was like a file that basically showed the comparison between like the in-game engine rendering and the original file. And the original file is what caught her eye because it was literally almost looked like it came out of the book.
Ooh, mamma mia,
Yeah. So
that's some pretty big trouble.
Pretty much. Whatever the case may be, we gotta see. We gotta wait. Like I said, I gotta read more into the topic before I can give a more concrete opinion. On my end, personally, I mean, I'm of the fact that if they should be found guilty right now because of what it seems like is that there's substantial evidence.
You said fact.
Huh?
You said you're of the fact. I think you meant to say.
No, I'm of the opinion that they should be at the moment because of that. But I'm gonna read in more before I wholeheartedly jump into that opinion because obviously you never know.
Yeah, there could be some other factors at play that we're just ignorant of.
I know that a lot of times, like game developers, they grab real life objects and try to design them as best as they can into the game. I know like there was like in Instagram the whole Call of Duty rug that was like, oh look, this is a rug I have in real life in my house, and there's that's bound to happen, but we gotta wait and see. So
yeah, I kind of want to be updated in the events of that trial because you know me, I'm like a big law guy, so I like hearing where cases go, so because those things tend to establish like precedent for how things should be handled in case like other people do similar things. So I'm kind of curious as to how that's gonna go, but that's pretty crazy. Like that's just insane. Like I hope that there aren't like a bunch of game devs out there that really just try to like get other people's work or get inspired by other people's work and then not give them credit or ask for permission and then put it in the game, because then that just sounds like a bunch of lawsuits waiting to happen if that's a common practice. I don't know.
Of course.
I know that there's been cases like that obviously in other things, like if someone's a Twitch streamer, maybe sometimes people rip someone else's art for emotes and stuff like that. So don't steal art, guys. Remember that those things have like laws that protect the creator of all that. So if you're ever
just pay people for their stuff, man. If you're gonna use some of this stuff, just pay for their stuff.
Everyone has a right to earn a living in any industry, even in photography and art. So
now as a creator, I understand the pain of creating content and getting around getting shut down because you're using music or whatever from other people and all that. For developers, all I gotta say is just try your best to keep original, guys. You're creating the art. You shouldn't mimic real life. You're the artist. You're creating new art.
Well, like real life inspires art all the time. The problem is when it's something that's
but I'm saying don't just grab real life, recreate it, change it in your image for art. You're an artist. You're creating the game. Don't use real life music. Don't.
Oh well, no.
Don't use real life music. Don't use real life art.
It depends. It really depends on your artistic vision. Like I think there's nothing wrong with straight up grabbing things that are in real life. The problem comes when you screw someone over, like when you're doing something that's underhanded, that you're maybe indirectly or directly harming someone. That's where it gets wrong. But like let's say just a theoretical, I'm gonna throw out real quick, where like if I want to make a horror game and I want to do something quote unquote deep, where like let's say I want the setting to look like my childhood home or whatever, because I don't know, trauma or some crap like that. And me as a game dev, I say, well, it has to look exactly like my house because that's the vision I have. That has its own artistic spin on it. That is an excuse to straight up grab the actual thing.
I understand where you're coming from. I'm just saying, like, when you start using direct real life, like impressionable things, like not just common things, like a cup is common and I don't care what cup you use to design for that, right? Whether you go to IKEA or whatever. But when you use direct things that are impressionable, like art, movie, music, and all that stuff from real life, I am of the mind, and I agree with people that to an extent takes away immersion because you're starting to realize, okay, I'm not in this world. I'm just using a version of my reality that shares the same thing, right? Like, imagine I'm playing Silent Hill. I'm supposed to be getting immersed in this, and then all of a sudden, Heroes of the Time. I forget the name of the song. The chick or whatever that I love the song. You know which one I'm talking. I can't sing it because the MCA, but I'm holding out for a hero, right? Imagine that song comes up randomly in Silent Hill. I'm gonna be like, I'm not in Silent Hill anymore. I'm just listening to music and it's impeding my immersion.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
That's all I'm trying to say about that. All right, so let's get to the main dish of the night, for this meal. So we got multiple topics today. I want to set up a beefy pre-setup to Tuesday's episode, which, by the way, Tuesday we will be having Sergio back on. We're gonna try and hopefully we're gonna try and get a
repeated guest of the show.
Well, he's not just a guest. He's more like our rotating third panel member.
Yeah, he really is. Point, he's like another part of the co-op.
Yeah, he's a close friend. So we're gonna be having him come around all the time. But what I wanted to say about that is, I've been wanting to do like a Bloodborne episode, which I reached ever since Danilo on your Twitch stream was making comments about helping and walkthroughs and stuff, and I was like, nah, I'm on the mind you should suffer. To that end, I do want to do that little quick let's play before like the main episode that day. So Sergio will be on for that earlier in the day, and hopefully we can get that across. We'll do a let's play, we'll do some conversation, we'll discuss difficulty and we'll also talk about the leak for the Final Fantasy Origins. Sorry, Final Fantasy Origins / Souls game that they're gonna do, because apparently they're gonna have like a Souls inspired Final Fantasy game, which I find interesting. That's gonna be cool. Then after that, we're also obviously gonna start covering E3 predictions and stuff with Sergio, because he says that's what he loves to do. So that's what that whole episode's gonna be about. But for today, these are the topics, and I'm gonna let you pick how you want to start. So first and most important, E3 hype. I want to talk about the fact that people hype it up too much, and as we discussed last episode, you think that a lot of things are fake. So we obviously want to speak to our audience and tell them, hey, look, beware of the hype, but enjoy it, right? Because there's obviously, just enjoy what's coming, right? You got to be surprised. Afterwards, we got to talk about the critics. I believe that critics have gotten to another phase, and we can bring up some examples, like specifically the person who crapped on Returnal because xenotype, or the word xeno was in it. Like, there's no reason to crap on the game because the word xeno, because it reminds you of democracy or Democrats or whatever. Like, it's just a word. Let it go. And people shouldn't be influenced by that.
Right.
Lastly, we are going to cover the Guerilla Collective, which is a short stream today that came out today with a bunch of indie games that look really promising and interesting that I want to check out. So what do you want to start with? And I got a story time, but we'll do that. We'll do that in between.
Well, that's how you actually got me there. I don't know. It all seems like pretty ravishing conversation.
What do you feel like? What do you feel like is speaking to you more? E3 hype, critics BSing, or you just want to see some games for now?
Well, why don't we do E3 hype?
Okay, so let's start with E3 hype. So last episode, was it last episode? Yeah, it was. We were talking about Horizon and how you feel like a lot of times these developers make trailers that are just fake, like straight out fake. They're lying. There is truth to that. I'm not gonna deny it. Obviously, we did some we compared. We did some comparisons. We looked at an extensive amount of comparison videos for the day. Yeah. All are Sony, because they're the ones that have been showing the most amount of games.
And that's nowhere near all the trailers where something like this has occurred to.
Yeah, well, we even showed Cyberpunk, right? And Robycat was showing all the comparisons of everything, like from the marketing to the talking about the game to the demos we saw to the supposed Twitch streamers that tried the game for like 2, 3, 4 hours, right? There is truth to what you're saying. I'm not kidding. I'm not denying that there were changes that we're discussing, and obviously people should be aware, because obviously it's advertising, right? They're always going to show you what you want to see for the sake of getting you to buy something.
Right. And just, to quickly mention, if you guys watch the episode, you'll notice that not every example that we showed was the most drastic lie, like something that happened with Cyberpunk. It varied from like, something as big and dramatic as Cyberpunk to like something as minor as like the reflections in Spider-Man, or like the absence of fog, or the worsening of the lighting conditions in Uncharted. Jesus, the Last of Us Part 2. Yeah, so
all of them. They all have lighting.
Even games that are considered phenomenal and all that, it seems like there's just a tendency for whatever reason to change up games, and usually it's a downgrade compared to how it was in like a demo or a trailer. And we just talked about how that practice was particularly annoying to me. Like, Jordan still thought it was kind of bad, but he wasn't as bugged by it. But to me, it really just annoys me. I hate that. I don't think there's a need for it. Now, I understand if there's changes in a game, like from when it was first developed to afterwards, especially if that's something that's done for like a thematic reason or like a narrative reason, kind of like in God of War, some scenes were changed from the final product, for good reasons, which me and Jordan discussed. But when it's just stuff like, oh, less tessellation in the snow, less God rays, more fog, that stuff just seems like fraud to me. That's like outright fraud, but whatever. We already talked about that.
Yeah, I mean, I know it seems like fraud, and I know it feels like fraud. Ultimately, for me, the idea of the game is that it plays it in the way that they presented it. Sure, there are some graphical issues, but in for the most part, the gameplay they showed off was very close to the final product. Despite the fact that obviously there's obviously some script. We've seen that Sony has been trying to change that and by showing more in-game like in-game engine gameplay rather than scripted stuff. So that's very nice as well. Ultimately, the reason why I'm not so bothered by it, at least in Sony's on their side, is because when they show the game, it's almost close to the same thing, right? Whereas a company like EA or in this case CD Projekt Red, like they show you something
Activision.
Activision, they just show the same thing. Right? It's just shoot, move. Right?
Well, weren't they the ones behind? Wait, no,
they didn't really do it. They don't do any of that.
Ubisoft,
they just show
my bad. I meant Ubisoft.
Oh yeah, Ubisoft. So they show a lot, but mostly Cyberpunk, right?
Yeah.
They show you something that's not at all in the game. I know that Ubisoft says a lot of things on E3 presentations, but they always at least say, hey, look, we tried and we gave up. We couldn't make it work.
Well, wait, did they do that for the hacker game? What was that one called?
Yeah, they did it for all of them. They were supposed to be like mobile in-game tie-ins, and then you were supposed to be able to like control your drone and like your friend could play with you and stuff, and they took all that stuff out.
I'm just even talking just graphically. Like the cities didn't look as dense in the final game, and I know there were some things that didn't work as they did in the...
Well, I'm sure that's how it looks like on PC. I mean, I know that on PlayStation, like the graphical density went down. But on PC, I'm pretty sure they didn't have to make as much of a sacrifice. Well, then again, actually, no, hold on. Ubisoft's actually pretty bad at PC ports. From what I remember,
I was gonna say I remember seeing comparisons specifically for what's that game called? Naughty Dogs? Yeah, Naughty Dogs. And look,
not Naughty Dogs. Watch Dogs. Watch Dogs. Yes. No, I there's night and day comparisons.
Jesus,
I understand.
Naughty Dogs.
But
Naughty Dogs.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin that I want to bring up is I know everyone loves their favorite streamer. Don't get hyped. Don't get the hype from them. Feel their joy. Let me say it correctly. Share in their joy. Like us, we obviously have joy for games, and you see Michael jump up and down crazy when he sees something cool in a game, and I express my emotions the best I can, even though I'm terrible at expressing emotions. But the problem is, don't take it at face value. Don't consider rule or like life. Make your own opinions.
Take it with a grain of salt. Yeah, I was thinking about that because actually you just brought up the funniest scenario. Something that people have to realize when it comes to content creators and streamers
and critics, which we'll get to.
Yeah. It's a business, and a lot of the times when you build your own audience, that attracts a lot of sponsorships and a lot of other deals that happen in the background without you realizing, because people don't realize that having an audience equates to creating money, and how that works is via advertising. This happens a lot with tons of games. Like it happened when Modern Warfare came out in 2019. A lot of the top streamers like Tim the Tatman, Shroud, Ninja, they were literally paid to become COD partners or whatever, and just play Modern Warfare for a period
and to say it's good.
And be like, yeah, and to say it's awesome. Like, yeah, bro, this is so awesome. And the way that those deals are brokered is basically they look at their audience, their average views or whatever, and they say, oh, okay, I see that on average you have this many viewers. If you play this game for an X amount of hours, we are going to pay you this much per hour and per 1,000 views or whatever. How does that sound? And typically these deals end up banking them like thousands and thousands of dollars. I think hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars probably. So it's funny that you mentioned this because you know what game in particular this happened to me with? Marvel Avengers. I
was trying to tell you, like,
yeah, the one who finally sold me on it was Shroud. Because I was like, whoa, Shroud literally only cares about like first-person shooters. So if he's playing Marvel Avengers, it must be so good. Little did my naive, dumb butt realize that this man was paid.
Well, okay, hold on. Had you played the demo and taken the minute to download it, I'm sure you would have gotten that off the beta and you wouldn't have bought it. The fact that you missed it, which is what I was trying to tell you, hey, I played it. That doesn't seem like the way they've been promoting it, but I didn't want to ruin your spirit because I have a tendency to do that in our arguing. we always end up off-putting certain things, or at least we used to, right? I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to give you the benefit of the doubt and enjoy something, you know, and I hope that the game was good. But anyways, continue.
Yeah, no, I was just saying that I was watching Shroud play. It was like, whoa, this is the funnest thing I've ever played. Lies. I played the game and it was god awful, dude. And now it's dead. It has like 10 players. Just so what we're trying to say is just.
Well, yeah, you gotta be careful, right? And especially, I see this with critics as well. They're obviously paid to write a good thing, even if many of these critics, and I'm talking about IGN, Kotaku, and all that stuff. Many of these people, a lot of times, they'll go and they'll do a presentation or something, and PR will come up behind them. It's like, hey, you can say this, don't say this, and then you got to send them like the article first beforehand to make sure that they're okay with what you write. And
well,
it builds unnecessary hype because they don't know the full extent of the game. They're only given a piece, and they're only able to make the impression off of that piece. That again is most likely what's going to show up on E3 anyways, because they want to hide the skeletons behind the closet.
I think it's already pretty messy.
Yeah.
That the developers, like PR people or whatever, or the companies themselves, like try to have any say in how honest a review can be, because that already kind of removes a little bit of the honesty right there. But the other thing is too is that I heard that they're not necessarily even paid to do it, because that would, I think that might even result in like a legal issue.
No, it depends, because a preview isn't a review.
Right. But I like, all I'm trying to say is that it's not always necessarily that there's an exchange of money. I know that a lot of the times, like with companies like Kotaku and all that.
Okay. But IGN, the money also comes from the business themselves. Like they'll say, hey, we want to keep a good relationship with this company, so we'll give you a bonus if you write it this way.
No, right. I get that. And I know that those might be some cases, but I actually saw, I forget, there was like this lady that apparently was a popular game reviewer or something, that she worked for IGN. And I think she made a video talking about this stuff. Is that I think, if I remember correctly,
Alana Pierce, the girl that I mentioned at the beginning,
probably
that was abused. She was the one that made the video talking about how some critics are just sometimes they're afraid to give a good or bad score because they're afraid what the readers are going to be like, and sometimes they are coerced in previews. Right, at least for IGN. She's speaking for IGN specifically. When you're doing previews, that's where it kind of gets like gray. But for reviews, it's mostly people just give their proper opinion.
Regardless of that, I think it goes further than even reviews and previews and all that. I think even if, like, let's say you have a show like the one that we have, and we say something to criticize a certain company, a certain individual, a certain game, whatever, I believe, if I remember seeing that video or what I heard, it's something like everyone who works in like the game journalism industry is wary a lot of times of dishing out criticism, due to the fact that like it doesn't even necessarily have to do with money or getting paid or whatever. Is that if they view it as like, if they ever do something that's unfavorable to a certain developer or company or whatever, that they might hinder themselves from having opportunities with them in the future.
And it's not just
like
that,
early access things and stuff of that nature.
And it's not just that, because obviously they want to stay ahead of the ball game from their competitors.
They want to be
it's
relevant.
Competitive. They want to be relevant, and it's their business. But it's not just that, it's also with the audience. They don't want to piss off their audience because they might disagree with their opinion. They're afraid to do that. And that's very valid as well, which are things that people have to keep in mind when you're listening to somebody who gives their opinion.
Yeah.
Right? And a little later when we get into the critics part, where we start pulling that apart a little bit more, I'm going to mention some people that I still find trustworthy to this day to give properly give their own opinion on reviews or in-depth analysis and all that stuff.
That sounds kind of spicy. You're going to be naming people that you should probably be like, stay away.
No. I'm going to name people I trust. Okay. I'm not going to name people you shouldn't trust. I'm going to name people I trust.
Okay.
I'm not going to put anybody down. I'm only going to pick up people I trust, and then I'm just
out of curiosity. You don't have to name anyone, but is there people that you're just like, oh yeah, I don't trust that person in particular?
Oh no, of course. I mean, I don't classify them by people. I classify them by the company they work for.
Oh, okay, by the company that work for.
Even
I think everyone could think of a couple of companies.
At the end of the day,
it's
like they might be cool people, but they're obviously stuck by the company. So if I see like a certain reviewer writing a certain way and they belong to, like, I don't know, Kotaku or something, I'll be like, Kotaku sucks. I'm not going there, right? Same thing for IGN, same thing for anywhere. Obviously objective depending on the person who it is, because everybody's different, and some people have tenure, some people don't. But there's very, very few people I trust for an opinion anywhere, even on YouTube, like YouTube content creators, because it's the same crap. Right. And more than the critics, the content creators are the ones who are most afraid of losing out their option, because their entire content is based on them being competitive and showing gameplay and this and that first, and getting the dibs to promote their content and all that and their brand.
Yeah, like Mr. What was his name? The walkthrough guy.
The Radbrad?
Radbrad, yeah, Radbrad always gets his games early and stuff.
He just gets. I mean, he just does the game and he gets a lot of views. It's not like he
no, but I'm pretty.
criticizes. Or he does reviews, but he doesn't criticize them like. To
no,
the
but
extent
that's that. No, yeah, but I'm just saying that's an example of like a content creator that might be a little scared to be like, yo, this game sucks because, like, let's say, I know that he did a walkthrough of Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man when it first came out. If he goes like, hey guys, this Spider-Man sucks, then he's gonna look at it, like they're gonna look at Insomniac's gonna look at it and be like, Spider-Man sucks, so you're not gonna get an early copy next time, and that's just bad for his business.
The Radbrad just says every game is great, so.
Yeah, that's a positive. But I threw out a name to throw out a name.
Even
it could be Angry
he looks
Joe.
like he's not interested in the game. He just says like, "Yeah, this game's great."
Yeah,
that's like his trademark. At this point, I don't even think he even bothers recording that line anymore. He just has it pre-recorded. He just pushes a button and says, "Oh, this game's great. This game's great."
That's funny.
You know, I don't mean to put in that other guy. The guy looks cool. He's awesome. I've seen a lot of his videos. But it's just funny how that line almost always shows up in every video. Anyways, the reason why we're bringing up the hype is because obviously E3 is coming around, and this is the time, especially with the situation that happened last year and all that stuff, and being home and you know, having more time on hand to worry about games and stuff, or to pay more attention to it. This is more a time than ever to be very cautious, because obviously, in the same way that many things are affected, we're seeing that many things are being delayed now. So all these games are going to be shown. They're going to be shown at the best they could be, and that's not representative of the final product. I'm going to start off by saying Cyberpunk. Glitches, problems everywhere, right? Halo Infinite, a mess, unfortunately.
Well, I think the presentation for Halo Infinite did it.
It did it justice, or it really did.
Yeah, it did. It didn't look. Okay, it didn't look great to me. So I was wary of Halo Infinite from the trailer itself. I wasn't sold that Halo Infinite was going to be some sort of a masterpiece from the trailer.
I'll tell you what.
I saw pop-ins and stuff in Halo Infinite, and it looked like kind of whatever.
In most cases, like other presentations where they usually look better than the final product, in this case, Halo Infinite presentation is going to look worse than the final product. So I guess that's a win in the book. Yeah, for presentation wise and being sold on the right product.
Definitely.
But
heaven forbid there's a case where the game looks worse than that. If the game looks worse than that, we're gonna have some trouble on our hands.
Right. But most importantly, which is also going to be another point of conversation later on, when we discuss how to review games and stuff, which is actually something I forgot to mention, but we're going to talk about how to review games and stuff. The last thing about hype that I want to touch on before we move on to the next topic is be aware that indie games aren't going to get the same spotlight as the bigger games. It's going to be the same all the time, anywhere, any presentation. There's other events going on, like the Guerilla Collective we're going to see today. They're going to showcase indie games and other types of things. The reason why I'm saying it is because there are experiences which in indies are far better than AAA products you can get. And I think that people need to stop being so afraid to dish out 10, 20, 30 bucks on these indie games to get a better experience. With that said, I want to rectify something I said on the last episode, which I spoke to Michael off the mic afterwards, or off the cast. I had mentioned some which Michael found very offensive and ignorant. I was saying that indie games and indie developers are like the kids league in a mess of like the bigger titles. And we were talking about like, okay, how can we say that when Cyberpunk, you know, on AAA, it doesn't define whether it's a good product. So what I wanted to say is to rectify that is like, I do enjoy indies. I'm not saying I don't, but I'm not going to be surprised if an indie fails, because there's a lot less in stake, and you know, most of these people are probably out of college, or they're smaller teams, so they don't have as large of a gap to make up any how do I put it?
I don't know if I guess I could try to give you a phrase and then you give me if it matches up or not.
Yeah.
What you're trying to say is basically like you're not going to behold an indie, or you're not going to hold an indie title to the same level of criticism that you would a AAA title. Where I mean that your expectation of an indie game is that it's more than likely going to not do as much as your average AAA title. But if an indie title ends up being better than a AAA title, you're going to be extremely pleasantly surprised and even more hyped for it. Versus you have the expectation of a AAA title, that because of the budget, because of the team behind it, because of the experience and the advertising behind it, it should perform better.
Exactly.
Whereas if it fails, you're going to be a lot more disappointed that it did.
Exactly. And with that, that being said, I also want to add to the fact that the reason why I'm looking at it that way and why I'm not putting indies at the same level as AAA is because it helps me build, at least in my eyes, a form of accountability, right? Because now, if I say, hey, look, indies are doing that at that work, then you need to do better because you have more resources and stuff. If I hold indies to the same level as AAA, then what's stopping the AAA company from giving us a smaller, more compact experience, and then still selling it at $60, right? And charging us full price when the indie company, is trying to make their name at $20 or $30 for MSRP pricing. So that's what I was trying to say with that. Like, I say Kids League because obviously they're right out of college. They're mostly inexperienced, or they're people just at their homes just trying to do this as a hobby, trying to upstart their life in a different career. And I don't want to judge them in the same light because it's not fair to them. Right?
Yeah. Well,
I want to give them an opportunity.
I mean, I think for the most part, you're pretty spot on about saying that probably most indie developers are going to have less experience than others. But I think aren't there like several cases of some indie developers that were actually previously like pretty big developers, and then they just kind of wanted to move away from the big names in the industry,
or like they got fired or let go or whatever. Yeah, I mean, but that's what I'm trying to say. Those guys, when they go to those, well, for the most part, when they start doing the indie stuff, they end up making some of the better indie games, right? So again, it's unfair because they have the knowledge and experience to create all this technology, and they far outclass people who make like the 2D side scroller games and all that. No, I'm not saying.
I just wanted to bring this up real quick. Did you know that I think either the main guy or one of the main guys that worked on like the original Spider-Man 2 for like the PlayStation 2 and Xbox and all that, he now makes Roblox games, and he tests them out with like his kid or whatever. Just a cool fun fact.
Well, but I mean, there you go. I mean, that's the joy of it. I mean, look, David Jaffe, just to mention him, name drop him real quick before I tell you my story. Essentially, he fell out of the mainstream company stuff with like Sony and all that. He's not making big AAA games, but and he wants to do the podcast. That's what he loves now. But he's still in the industry, not only through interviews and know-how, and one way or another, he's still part of it. And he's also part of a company. I keep forgetting the name, but basically, I think it's like Movie Something Games, and basically.
Damn,
it's like an indie company.
You gotta find the name out. Don't do Jaffe like that.
I know, but essentially, he's working in a indie company, and they're producing like their own things, and he's kind of like helping out in like advice role, helping them out. So I mean, the people who love games and who created it, they're always going to be around it, whether through podcasting, whether through Roblox, Minecraft, indie development, maybe joining a different company. It all depends on what they want to do. And yeah, I mean, with that being said, that's all I wanted to rectify what I said last time.
Since you already mentioned it in this previous segment, why don't you go ahead and tell us about your story, Mr. Hotshot?
So I'm gonna start off real quick by
Mr. Hot,
just showing off Diet Coke.
Yo, we're not sponsored though, Coke. If you want to do a sponsorship, throw an inbox our way. Like, send us a DM.
I'm showing this because I've become a Diet Soda soldier now. So
Diet Soda soldier,
being part of David Jaffe's Diet Soda soldiers. So
doesn't it have like carcinogens though?
I don't care.
I don't care.
Just gonna ASMR open one up real quick. Open up a cold one.
If you're gonna do it in front of the mic because it's a dynamic mic.
Well, I mean, I can hear from here, right?
Oh, you heard it? Oh, okay. Yeah, the headphones in. Okay, fair.
So, taking a quick sip for David Jaffe. Thank you for letting me be a part of the Diet Soda Soldiers. Anyway, so the story goes, I've been watching David Jaffe for about 10 episodes now, more or less, give or take. I don't watch all of them, but I've been watching all of them. And when I do, I watch it from beginning to end because it's usually an interesting conversation.
I feel like you've been watching it for so much longer.
Well, because I watch like 1 or 2 episodes a week. He makes like 5 a week. So at this point, it's probably been like 2 months and going.
You've watched a lot of David Jaffe. Yeah. Let's just put it that way.
Like I said, I watched the full 2 or 3 hour cast, right? Like when he does the whole thing, the whole pod. So I've been watching since like the Jeff episode when he started doing the interview with like the Days Gone guys and all that stuff, John Garvin, and I remember all the people and all that stuff. But essentially, I joined this one episode 2 nights ago called I forget the name of the title, but essentially he took the YouTuber Gaming Philosophy or Filosofia Gaming in Spanish. onto his show and decided to have a debate with him because this guy was like pretty much grandstanding on his opinion of like hypersexualization in games and all that has been like dumbed down, and it's all trying to be like more diverse and involving of different people and reducing the sexual nature.
Was this the episode that you were on or the previous?
No, I was the one previous.
Okay.
And usually David Jaffe says, "Hey, if you have something to you have something to say, feel free to call in. Just sub, and we'll invite you to Discord and stuff."
Right.
I've thought about it before, but I'm an introvert, right? So I normally shied away from it, and obviously I never wanted to come in and be like, "Hey, I'm from this podcast, come watch me." Like I always wanted to provide something of value to him, to the conversation, because I want to make not only a good impression, but I want to be able to call back in whenever I have an opinion, right? So I never did. I was always afraid to make that first impression. I didn't know what was right, whether I should just reach out to him through Twitter slowly and get to know him a bit. But this guy was just so arrogant in the way that he was presenting women, and it needs to be a certain way.
Right?
The caller, or not the caller, but like the person he invited to have this debate for. And the guy, I know that you got to be patient in debates and like let people speak their opinion and stuff. But this dude spent like the better half of an hour showing not only Jaffe but all the viewers like pictures in minuscule form. Like he didn't even bother to enlarge the icons. He just click on a picture and whatever popped up in whatever size with the image he showed. So it'd be like this big on screen. And he's just showing us pictures of like since like the 1990s when they used to design like anime girls and stuff with certain chins and they have a round chin and they're beautiful and big breasts and this and that. And look at how they change as time goes on. The chin started becoming blockier and this and that, or like more rectangular, more pronounced, and like they stopped showing so much cleavage and they're not as scantily clad and this and that, and there's not as much sexual innuendos. And I'm just like,
well, the number one mistake that man made in his debate or in his argument or whatever is just being super anecdotal. Like, what the hell? Like, he's just throwing out
it's super subjective and anecdotal. I mean,
no, it's not subjective. This is, I think there's an objective.
It's his point of view on what beauty is. It's subjective in that respect.
Yeah, but that's, just showing a bunch of pictures.
Yeah, okay.
That's just weird. Whatever. That's just like already weird.
I'm gonna skip most of it. You guys should watch this episode. Like, I'm gonna put it out there. Go to David Jaffe's show and watch the episode. It'll have the thumbnail gaming philosophy or philosophy gaming. Watch the episode so you see what this guy did. Not to hate on the guy, but so you guys get an idea of a different perspective from a different culture. The guys
was it the episode called "Do Game Characters Need to Be Attractive?" Jaffe versus Filosofia Gaming.
There you go. That's the one.
Yeah. So just so you guys can see, it's this one right there, the thumbnail with Jaffe. Like,
well, that's only a clip. It's not the full episode, but that's a clip of one of the arguments that they had.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, you find the full episode from there. Yeah. But there's his channel.
I don't want to take too much off the episode, but it feeds into the story. So essentially,
check it out.
Essentially, what happened there is that this dude was like pretty much like grandstanding the entire time because Jaffe was trying to input his opinion, but every time he was putting his opinion, the chats would be like, "Guy, like Jaffe, let him say his piece, let him say his piece." But the dude just kept repeating the same points and not validating his points. So at the end, the conclusion from the video, which I drew,
his argument.
Yeah, what I drew from it, and what Jaffe drew from it, which I think we're in agreement in when I spoke to him about it in the last episode, is that the guy has a valid point that in modernizing older franchises, whether it's Resident Evil, Devil May Cry, or whatever, there has been a change in how they portray the female characters in the game, like what type of dress they have, how much cleavage they show, all that stuff. There's agreement there. As far as the face thing, that's where we disagree with philosophy gaming, because when you make a new character, the design is new and fresh. It has nothing to do with the older franchises, or it doesn't belong to anything. It's a new game, new character, new franchise. So at that point, if they draw inspiration from a woman that may not have a super circular face and might have like a more pronounced chin or
Wait, I'm a little
jawline.
confused. So is the argument that Jaffe was saying that it has changed, and then the other guy saying that
Well,
both
the other guy says it has changed. Jaffe says the change doesn't matter because it's just different levels of creativity, right?
Yeah. Well,
like not every game is going to be the same.
I know you're trying to get to a point, but I wanted to add a quick point to that just because you know how I love arguments and stuff. So I'll just throw in my part too. It really depends on the games that you're playing. Like I think maybe I don't know what kind of perspective they had on it. Me thinking more than likely it's probably AAA stuff. I like to play stuff that's not as popular, like Soul Calibur, a series like Soul Calibur. I think the jiggly bits, as I like to say, just get more and more immense, and the faces look more and more unrealistic because that's just how what they do with their female characters. So I don't even think that every franchise has changed. Some games, just do, and that's okay too. Like you don't have to make. I will say this.
The truth to what he says is that games like Blood Rain and shows like not Vampire, Buffy the Vampire Slayer and all and Charlie's Angels and all that, they've all been modernized, changed, or they're not in circulation anymore. Yes, scantily clad female portrayal is not as common anymore in this era. Like right now we're in an era where women are more heroines than just ornaments or whatever, like just objects. Like they are now the heroes of the story. And I'm glad for it too, because it makes for a more engaging and entertaining story rather than just being like one-sided where like the main character is the only important character. Now it's like all the characters are involved, whether they're female, male, or whatever however they're portrayed. There is truth to that. There's not as much as there was before. Is there still games that do that? Yes, 100% there is. You just gotta look for them. They're not AAA, sure, whatever. But for you to say that games don't have it anymore is like you saying that the only games that exist is what's shown at E3, which again goes back to what I was saying. Do not believe. I mean, let yourself be hyped up in terms of feel the joy of it, but don't let yourself get sold into it, because there's obviously different things that go into it.
Yeah, and I also think that there's nothing wrong with doing scantily dressed necessarily, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with doing not scantily dressed. Like, whatever. Like if you do it for a purpose, go for it.
Yeah, it's up to the artist and what type of thing they want to draw, right? It's kind of like the flack that the cyberpunk artists got when they portrayed that one specific art in the game that showed off, say, supposed in-game art model, like professional model, that was a transgender character, and they had their sex appeal was showing through the picture, and they got flacked for that. And what's wrong with that? I don't understand. They're just portraying the art in the world the way that the world is being portrayed. That's the ambience that they're drawing, the environment. You're going into this world and they're portraying to you how corporate abuses sex appeal for advertisement in the same way they do in real life. And in that game it's progressive, whether they're transgender or not, they're still being equally abused in the same way as any other person would. They're being whatever, portrayed that way for the sake of sales. Like it's just they're just building the environment, right? Whatever. The point is, it's out there. You just gotta look for it. It's not every game needs to have it. I don't see a need for Ellie to all of a sudden have big gigantic mommy milkers like the main bad like Lady Dimitrescu from Resident Evil 8. Like I don't understand why every female needs to have it. I don't understand why every female needs to have a round chin. There's women that could have pronounced chins and still be beautiful, and that's what I brought up to the table. Now, that point, just to close that off from that story.
So you're saying that when you called in on Jaffe?
Yeah, when I called in. But anyways, to close off the point on gaming philosophy, basically like the stuff he was saying, Jaffe mentioned the words, it was like the trigger moment. He goes, guys, if you have something to say to this guy or to me, or you want to add to the conversation, just call into the Discord. I'll bring you in. That was enough for me to just go, wanting to pull my skin off, like literally like, okay, I'm finally gonna say my piece, like F this dude's pissing me off and I'm gonna overcome my introvertness. I grabbed my credit card, I shoved it in there, and I subscribed. Sadly, I mean, he was stuck in a debate and all that, and there wasn't a mod to bring me into the Discord, so I couldn't partake that day. But the point is, that's how it ended. It was just a large disagreement and whatever, and there were some truths to what the guy was saying, but it's not enough to justify what he was trying to say. To that end, I was trying to write in like, hey, how are you gonna Discord? Oh, look, this is kind of cool. I was trying to say my piece. I was trying to interact with Dave Jaffe, and all of a sudden, like, he wipes his face and he starts saying the story about like he's having blood pressure issue, but all of a sudden there's a whole bunch of blood in his face. I'm like, what did he do? And I'm like, hey, there's blood in your face. And then like a chat just going like, is that blood? Is that real blood? And I'm like, hey, there's blood. I'm like, I started freaking out because it's like David Jaffe starts going like, hey guys, like, I don't know what happened there. And he was like, like he was passing out almost. And I was like freaking out. I was like, somebody freaking super chat him, because he kept only reading the super chat. So I freaked out, panicked, and I slipped in my card again for another $5 to super chat. And it's like, hey, you're bleeding, in caps. And then as the thing is processing, he goes, ha, I tricked you guys. And I'm like, fuck.
Rip.
And I was like, oh, it's whatever. He got me good. He deserves the $5 for the troll. I mean, he got me good, right? He played me well. But he looked at my comment, he read it out. I was like, haha, guys, don't worry, I'm not dying or I'm not passing out. It was just a joke. Like, look, here's fake blood. I was just messing around with you guys. Then the episode ended. So in the following episode, I tried to be more into it. I spoke with him. I joined the Discord finally. He did the blood thing again. I was just like, I'm not gonna fall into this time. But anyways, he finally got to me. I was able to talk in the show, and I was able to say my piece. I actually told him about that because when he did that he faked me out. I had my headphones on with the noise blocker and all that, noise cancellation, so I didn't hear what was going on the outside either. So at that same moment when I was crapping my pants, my wife knocked on the door and then crapped her pants because she couldn't hear me and started screaming to my aunt and uncle that I was passed out or I was replying and something was wrong. So he got both of us. It was like a double, two and one with one stone, whatever, right? Two birds, one stone. Rip. So that was just a funny story. I shared it with him, and he was just saying, "No, it's just me trolling it. I didn't mean for it to come across
his,
like that."
His prank shifted into the third dimension.
Mm-hmm. It basically shifted into the third dimension, pretty much. But anyways, going on with that, just to finish the story short, I was able to speak with him. He was awesome. He was very nice. He engaged with me in conversation. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, I was able to provide interesting points to the conversation because obviously everything that I talked about with him has been talked over hundreds of times. With him, he's talked it over many times. Many people have given his opinion. But
if it's worth anything, I did enjoy watching the conversation between you guys.
I mean, we're
and
friends.
That was even I got additional enjoyment obviously from it being you, but I felt that the points that you guys were making in the conversation were enough to actually hold interest. And I mean, it showed because thanks to the shout out that Mr. Jaffe gave us, some people showed up and subscribed to the channel.
Yeah.
Which, thank you guys if you're watching this. But I mean, it shows that you guys were able to actually captivate people with your conversation. People weren't just like, "Yo, who's this scrub?" Like, get him off the Discord, Which I feel like what could happen if you don't hold an actual good conversation.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I was hoping I brought up some interesting points. Like one thing I didn't hear, which I brought up, was the whole narrative thing about like how Aloy is wider or chunkier or whatever in the new game. I mean, to me, that's a narrative development, right? Because I remember in the original game there was like a food scarcity issue or whatever. Mm-hmm. And that food scarcity issue was fixed or mended towards the end of the game. So I'm assuming that now that they have food and they can eat, that she just looks like she's eating now.
Yeah, like she's just she's
I think
life.
if that's what it is, I think that's a great narrative development through and through. Aside from that, we also spoke about a bunch of things, talking about like how gamers need to see indies in the same light as AAA. He was saying that it's kind of hard to do that with people because I mean, they just don't see it that way, right? He sees it in his way, but he says that he was 50 and he's older and he has the ability to perceive things in certain ways through his experience.
Can you actually explain a little bit better? Because you said that kind of quick and that was kind of confusing.
So essentially I brought up the subject and I was saying how he asked why people don't see indies like
they don't
moviegoers
respect
see
it as
movies.
Much as triple, or they don't compare them as much,
exactly. In the same way that moviegoers just watch movies, right? Like a moviegoer can be like, I'm a big enthusiast of Marvel and then still go watch The Godfather or some type of indie film, but gamers can't do that. And I brought up to him the idea or the counter theory that's saying maybe it's not why, but how do we get them to see it? Because people do see it in the AAA products.
Which so basically, what you guys are talking about is that
it's more philosophical.
Like moviegoers, they have their variety in what they choose to do versus a lot of gamers.
They're more okay to jump into another genre.
Yeah. Versus gamers tend to just stick to what they already like. Like, let's say if a Call of Duty player likes Call of Duty,
they just stick with it.
Call of Duty, fuck yeah!
This is my blood
or something.
Yeah, this is my gun. This is my life. They sing the freaking boot camp song. But that's what I was getting at because in my theory, I mean, I was explaining to him that gamers are very and even me, like we're very territorial. We're very emotionally attached to our products. And when we start Destiny, especially when I was explaining to you, when you start a game like Destiny, Roblox, Minecraft, whatever, you start putting input into how the game is updated, you feel a part of the game. And that becomes a deeper connection. The amount of time they have to spend to fully involve yourself in the world is something of an interaction that you cannot really get from other mediums in the same way. Like games, especially games like Call of Duty that are addicting, they come out and grab you. Whereas with a book or whatever, you have to let yourself be enthused by what you're watching. With a game, it comes out and grabs you because you're immersed with a controller. But he was saying, it's kind of hard to see that because people are, it's either they're open-minded or closed-minded, right? I mean, I agree with him in that extent, but I also feel like us as especially him as a viewer, he champions indie games, and I believe that's maybe he is right that there's not really much you can do other than being like a person like him that explains that these are indies and showing people, hey, look, it's not just AAA. There's other games out there, like. And that's mostly the reason why I wanted to bring up the critics topic today, because there's a lot of critics that are going to sell you the AAA crap like they do all the time, and you're going to miss out on so much fun, right? You can have fun at Disney World parks, but you can go to like the smaller off-branded stuff, like I forgot Wiki Watchy that I told you about over in Sarasota. That's just like an off-brand Disney thing where it's just like a mermaid presentation and still have fun, right? Mm-hmm. And it's cheaper experience too. You know, not everything has to be GTA 5, for example. Not everything has to be Call of Duty. Sometimes a small 3-4 hour experience is just as good and fulfilling as a 10-50 hour experience.
Yeah. Or you could kind of look at it also like if we're doing the whole Disney metaphor thing, like it's like if you get sold only on AAA, like you get told, oh yeah, the only thing that's good is Disney. The only thing that's good is Disney. And then you go to Disney and then you get on a ride and it breaks down and then you're stuck there for 6 hours and you kind of wasted your money. Versus if you go to a small park or whatever, which is like the example of you playing an indie, and then you find Hades, and Hades ends up being better than something like so the analogy I was making was kind of like, imagine going on like the busted ride being like playing Cyberpunk at release, and then you go to the small park and then all of a sudden they feature like a concert from a celebrity that just decided to go there for free or whatever, and that's kind of like playing Hades. Yeah, you know, you end up getting a better experience for less money.
You really can't say one is better than the other and, you know, deny the experience for yourself. Which, of course, brings into the other topic that we're going to talk about later, how to review games. Because the way that I'm going to do it, or the way that I'm going to present in the show, and I think maybe you should partake in it too, is just genuinely being honest of your experience, which was inspired in part by David Jaffe, but mostly because of a long conversation I've had for many years regarding how people can't choose an indie game or spend money on an indie game for like $10 for like a 4-hour experience when they could pay $60 on Destiny and spend 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 hours in enjoyment, right? So that's a larger conversation. But anyways, to get off to the next topic before we go any further, just want to say to David Jaffe, like directly, thank you for letting me be on the show. Thank you for actually letting me say the name of my podcast on your show. And as you mentioned, you know, we're a small cast, but we can help each other out. I'm always going to be in support of you. I am a Diet Soda soldier, so I'm going to be in support, whether through podcast or through the subscription, you know, showing up to events, being part of the conversation as best as I can. And I'm obviously, as a challenge to myself, being an introvert, because I had an introvert shock after the conversation. I was like, oh my God, what did I do? I spoke
Some could say you were starstruck.
Well, yeah. But it's more on the fact that I spoke to somebody rather than saying I spoke to somebody important or popular. Not saying that he isn't.
Well, I don't think that's necessarily.
I get shocked when I speak to people in general. Like even with Minds, for as awesome as he was, like even he said it, you know, about us, and I said it about him. Like I was nervous to talk to you because I'm an introvert.
If you don't mind me interjecting, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, because you're gonna know yourself better than you. I also do think that the fact that God of War, especially the older ones, were some of like your most favorite and legendary games, especially when you were coming up. You probably, I would imagine it's hard to. I would be hard pressed to say that you probably didn't view David Jaffe, who he actually worked on those games, in if you didn't view him or hold him in some heroic, you know, or like you kind of viewed him as like a childhood hero of yours or something like that.
See, because I didn't make that connection of David Jaffe and God of War until I met Sergio told me. And even then, and this is a point that he brings up. Unlike movies, video game developers, like creators and stuff, like Cory Barlog now, because Sony's pushing all that, but they're not as revered as like say like Hancock Films or Steven Spielberg, right?
That's fair, but I was gonna say like just like because knowing the type of person that you are, that you always kind of wanted to get into game dev, and you actually respect a lot of the guys behind it.
The thing is like, unlike people who follow David Jaffe throughout his career, my only real connection to him is God of War 1 and 2, and that's it. I never got into Twisted Metal, so I don't know much about the experience. I only know that it's a fun
he worked on
PvP. Yeah, he's a creator of that. He's a creator of that. And I didn't play his last game, unfortunately, which was I'm so bad at podcasting. Sorry.
Right, well, I'll save you. I play Twisted Metal. I used to play Twisted Metal actually quite a bit with my cousin and stuff, and it used to be quite a lot of fun. So shout out to you, man, for making that game because that was pretty creative. That's not a game
Let me look it up.
concept. That's not like a game concept that you see every day. You know, Killer Cars is. I mean, I'm not doing justice in actually explaining what it is, but just the whole car PvP thing is pretty entertaining in and of itself. So big ups to you for making that, man.
Okay,
And obviously for working on the other God of War games is pretty huge.
Yeah, look. Okay, so this is the last game he worked on. It was called Drawn to Death.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people missed out the point of that. I didn't play the game, and I'll explain to him why, and I'll explain to him because obviously, he's gonna give me feedback on why I saw it this way and explain. And I want to know more as to why. I'm trying. This whole podcast is us understanding how his point of view is from a developer's sky view, like sky high view, like he's seeing why people interact with this game the way he does from a developer standpoint, and now he's seeing it through the eye or the lens of a gamer with a developer mind.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to understand how a gamer who doesn't understand a developer, which is the point of this podcast, how we perceive games and developers without that knowledge, right? And trying to understand it through philosophy and all that stuff. So this is what I got from Drawn to Death. First impression, I understand the unique art style with like the whole drawing and doodling and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't hit with me. Like to me, it just looked like a bunch of colors mushed together with black outlines, and that put me off the first time I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
It was also a PvP game, and I'm not big on PvP. Period. Whether it's party games or not, I'm not. The closest I get to fun party games is like maybe Mario Party and Mario Kart. In Mario Kart's my least favorite, and then Smash.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and that's about it. That's about the extent of it. I stopped playing fighting games. I hate PvP, all that stuff. But what I understood now after watching the game again, like the trailer, is, and maybe he can correct me if he ever sees this. Essentially, what I got from the game is basically like a school student is bored out of their mind and they're doodling in their journal, and all of a sudden their imagination goes beyond whatever it is, and it creates this world where he's creating basically his imagination is being portrayed in Drawn to Death. It's this giant battle, and he's portraying his favorite heroes. That's actually one of the first hero shooter games, PvP games, by the way. But he's basically portraying the characters that you pick are heroes, kind of like Overwatch and stuff. You play as a hero. So, anyways, so the way that I'm understanding is that we're inside the mind of a kid or doodler or whatever that's doodling his imagination, these battles that he concocts within the game, and that's the whole point of the game. In the same way that Smash Bros. In a way has like this surreal theme where it's like a kid playing with his favorite toys, and that's what Smash Bros. Is. It's kind of the same thing. It's a person doodling his adventures in the game, and that's what the whole game's about. Just that's how I perceive it. Maybe there's more to it. Obviously, that's only what I got from the trailer. I wish I could have been there for that because obviously, you want to support your favorite developers, but I clearly missed out on that. But that's because I hate PvP and all that stuff. All right, so let's get to the next thing. I'm gonna take a little break from talking because I've talked too much. Can we do? Can you pull up the Guerilla Collective Day 1 stream?
Second, okay. But I have.
Oh, rip. That's fine.
Right.
Okay, so search up Guerilla Collective Day 1.
Like the monkey gorilla?
G-U-E.
Oh, like.
Yeah. Guerilla Collective. Let's go ahead and get this in there.
Okay. Are searching up the Guerilla Collective. Whatever.
That one 4 hours ago. That's fine. Yeah.
5 hours.
No, yeah, but they do the pre-show and the whole. Yeah, look, go out because that's the IGN show. Hold on, go back. If you go down. No. I'm sorry.
It all looks like just
Yeah, it's a bunch of indie games. No, that's last month. Go up. Okay. Try and see if there's one that's shorter because I know that they do like their big
1 hour free.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Drop frames. That's pretty short. Okay. So now just skip like the pre-show stuff and then go straight to assuming that the guy doesn't put his face. Hopefully he doesn't. And he did.
Oh, he did put his. So let's watch IGN, shall we?
Yeah. Let's just go to IGN and skip straight to it. Whatever. Or the other one.
Short.
No, yeah, but that's 11 months ago. This is the old one. Just go to the second one or first one. There you go. One of those two.
Millions quit vaping. I don't, guys. I don't think vaping is good for you, so don't. But also,
No, don't.
advertising it.
It's well, that's actually saying quit vaping.
No, I know.
Okay, so just look at the preview stuff, and then we'll skip to the games. Yeah, they go. Okay, so that's where it starts. Click
Here?
on it. Yeah, click on it, and then zoom, full screen, and then now just scroll to like the first game, and we'll take a look at it.
I keep this.
Well, no, when the game comes up, like the games come up, I mean, we can take off the mute, I guess.
Right, but I'm gonna have. Okay, here's.
Okay, so this is the game that was shown off quite a while ago. I forgot the name of it, but it's pretty interesting. Well, that's fine. I'll start talking on it. So essentially, what was interesting about this game is that it's supposed to be like kind of like an anime meets cyberpunk world, and it's explored in a 2D style world, but in like a beat 'em up type of gameplay. So you can kind of, even though it's 2.5D, you see the world in a side scroll fashion, but you can move forward or backwards in the game world. And I thought that was pretty interesting. Specifically because, well, one, cyberpunk's one of my favorite things. Two, anime's kind of cool when done right. And three, exploring the world, it's even though it's 2.5D, as long as we get to explore the world however they do it, that's what matters to me, right? Because as much as I want Cyberpunk 2077 to finally be good and like to fully show whatever it is that they want to do with the expansions or whatever, it's a little loud though. It's kind of covering my voice.
I don't think you're hearing it as they are on the podcast, but I can lower it a little bit. There you go.
Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah, that's perfect. So this is one of the coolest things about this thing, right? It combines a bunch of themes I find cool, but it's an indie, so I don't expect it to go into Cyberpunk 2077 territory. I don't expect it to be as like GTA 5 or Fortnite or whatever. I expect this to just be a good indie game. That's all it is. And to me, this game kind of spoke out to me because, like I said, the anime, the Cyberpunk, and of course, the anime take on Cyberpunk with a beat 'em up style of gameplay. I don't know if you like beat 'em ups. Have you ever played Streets of Rage or any of that? I wasn't a big fan of those because to me, I always had a small TV and like playing with friends and all that stuff, it was kind of off-putting. But this game specifically seems to have that type of like fighting game style, which to me makes it interesting, especially like Marvel's Capcom style of gameplay and all that. Even the map, like you can see this map right here is very, it resonates with a lot of Street Fighter 4, the training room, so it's kind of interesting.
It seems kind of interesting. Like, what is it? Is it like a combination of like beat 'em up and like horror or something?
No, Cyberpunk and beat 'em up. It's a beat 'em up game in a cyberpunk world with anime.
That creature looked kind of scary to me. That's why.
Anime story.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So, I don't know if you get to make your own choices in the game narratively. Maybe we'll see if they do some in the presentation. Okay. So we got some objectives. It seems pretty. I don't know. It seems kind of cool to me. Like I like the fact that that it's very high action. It's in a world design that I like, and
to me, it really looks like a cool new take on a classic type of game. Because like beat 'em ups are obviously probably some of the most classic game design that you can look at, or like some of the most retro game design that you can look at. But obviously, it's a very refreshing, modern take on it. Obviously, it's a cyberpunk setting, like what you said. It kind of reminds me of like, and it's a platformer too, from what it looks like, right?
Yeah, there's a little bit of platforming here and there. I don't know how far they're gonna take it, but that's the kind of stuff I want to see coming from indie developers. Them challenging the Co-Op Syndicate.
That looks pretty cool, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
So
here's something else. Okay, so we know it's 505 Games as the publisher. Oh, okay. So you remember Bloodstained from the creator of Castlevania Symphony of the Night? He made a game in like 2016 or 2018 or something. It's basically like the spiritual continuation of Castlevania through the eyes of the original creator. I kind of like that they've been successful enough to, make this. Is this an update or sequel? I'm not sure what it is, but I really want to play it because I missed out on it. I thought it was kind of cool. Oh, was that Shovel Knight? Shovel Knight! Yo, that's crazy.
Bro, they put my man Shovel Knight up in
I gotta get Shovel Knight.
Bloodstained?
I think it's an updated version of the game, like with DLC and stuff, rather than like a yeah. Cause see, it already has reviews and stuff.
Dude, indie people literally make the best DLC. I mean, I don't know what it is, but nowadays most DLCs feel pretty plain.
Cause there's less PR and BS in between, right? That doesn't mean that it doesn't, right? Cause like seeing the Resident Evil characters in what's that game? Dead by Daylight, for example, the whole Resident Evil arc in the PvP game, that's cool stuff, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So look at they did the whole Dracula thing where he throws the cup. What is man but a miserable pile of secrets? Well, I'm very excited for that because I missed out the first time around, so I'm definitely looking.
All these indie titles, by the way.
Yeah, Guerilla Collective is mostly indie stuff. So this is what I'm saying. E3 isn't the only thing. It's not the end all be all. So Eternal Cylinder is awesome because you start off as like an amoeba or spore or something in a world that's dying, and there's this giant cylinder that's just crushing the planet. And your goal is to run, evolve, and survive.
I mean, dude, if I can't play as a bipedal, physically challenged elephant, then I don't want it.
However,
you know?
environmental conditions are only one of the many dangers you will face.
Well, you evolve and grow and develop. See, like now he has 4 feet, but 2 legs.
So it's like you're evolving.
Yeah, you evolve as you survive the world, and you start gaining like different abilities to help you navigate the ability. But you see that giant cylinder in the back? That thing rotates over time and it starts like destroying the planet. So you gotta survive. That's like the whole point of the game. It's just, I don't know why, but this game just kind of speaks to me in the same way that Flower did, where it's just, it's not telling me anything directly. It's just inviting me to do something crazy.
Is this multiplayer? Like are all those players?
I don't know. I don't remember this game being promoted as a multiplayer game. But I think you're supposed to survive with like your race or like your people and stuff.
So I mean, I want to find out if those are NPCs or other players, because that's gonna affect how the game plays out greatly, I feel like. Yeah. But I guess an indie, and I don't know, for an indie title, how that would be pretty rare, right? Because that would require the maintenance of servers and all that. So
yeah. I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe they'll figure it out. Write netcode and peer-to-peer works, right? For a small game like that. So this is pretty interesting here. Oh, look, this is kind of like those top-down shooters you like, right? Like Contra and stuff. Which, by the way, that reminds me, we gotta get on Dead Nation and all those games that we missed out on.
Which Contra's a top-down shooter? Because the one that I played was Contra 1, which was like a side-scroller.
No, there's specific points in Contra where there's like it turns into a top-down.
Oh, okay.
But I was referencing Dead Nation, the zombie game from the extra mode from Black Ops Dead Ops, yeah, Dead Ops Arcade and stuff.
Space Monkey from Ape Escape.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at those types, though. But it also looks like you could do
multiple
like melee
things,
combat
right?
too.
Yeah. So this looks kind of interesting, which reminds me, I was gonna tell you, I was almost about to buy Gauntlet. I had priorities and I couldn't extend my credit card that far.
Rip.
But I would have gone Gauntlet and I would have been able to play with you. But unfortunately, I'm gonna have to skip this and get to another, deal.
Well, if you ever decide to do it, we're always looking for other players to play with. So.
Yeah. But we have to go back and get on all those games.
Should I skip this or?
Yeah, you can skip. I mean, no disrespect to the guy, but we're obviously just showing the games and stuff. And
what about?
Skip only a couple minutes because these guys only talk for like 30 seconds. So. Oh, this is like a 4-player game.
Oh, there's something else?
Yeah, he's showing a new game that he built through Unity, where it's essentially like a 4-player co-op or PvP game, sort of. It's just supposed to be like, that looks like the kind of stuff I would play in Computer Lab.
Yeah, it's like it looks almost like a Flash game.
Yeah, I mean it looked like he was using almost like Photoshop, pretty much, or a Photoshop type thing. Oh, that's what Unity does. Jordan, understand development. What are you? It's called AK Zodal.
Axolotl.
Oh, Axolotl.
Because that's an axolotl. But I mean, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but that's a certain type of animal. Fun fact, I used to work at a pet store, and we actually carry those from time to time. That's an axolotl, I think is how you pronounce it. And so then the play on words is that since it uses an AK, it's an axolotl or
yeah, look, that's the gameplay right there. Yeah, I mean, it looks kind of fun, like a data, just mess around and feel like the whatchamacallit, like the old school
It's
stuff.
almost like a bullet hell top-down shooter,
Yeah,
which is pretty
with
cool.
co-op and PvP. So that's crazy.
You see, like, I wouldn't be able to get something like this out of a AAA studio nowadays, man. That's the type of stuff that I like indies for. Like, that looks like I could play it for hours.
Yeah, I mean, it's PvP, so for me, as much as it might be interesting, like it's not something. Okay, 2 to 4 player local co-op. Okay, so it's not like PvP or anything. This is the kind of stuff. Again, it's like not to shit on Drawn to Death, but that's what the impression was. That it was a game that it's not for me because it's PvP, and I'm not gonna be able to enjoy it because I'm a very objective-oriented person. Story-wise, like I need to see story development, and PvP doesn't give me that. PvP just gives me here's the next match or whatever.
That's a fair point, and obviously normally you're by yourself when you're trying to enjoy your games and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
let me ask you this:
exactly.
if I have you and a couple of our friends over, maybe a couple beers, this and that, are you gonna prefer playing God of War, or are you gonna prefer playing AK's?
I'm probably gonna prefer playing God of War.
Yo, that's just weird, dude.
It's just dude, I don't know what to tell you. The emotional connection that I get from.
Yeah, but you're gonna make us sit down and watch you
Well,
play
no,
God of
I would
War.
just bring a separate monitor and play by myself like I usually do, right? Because
So
I'm
what's
an
this
introvert
here?
and I'm
This is
a
like
piece of crap.
It almost reminds me of like Prince of Persia.
This is it's like Metroidvania stuff. This is just like 2D side scroller stuff. Well, actually no, it's kind of like Mega Man with that shooting and stuff.
Oh no, yeah. Well, actually, it does remind me quite a bit of
Yeah.
Metroid. Now
I'm
because
not-
of the caves and all that.
I'm gonna be honest to the viewers about myself. I'm not big on 2D side scrollers. There's very few that I've connected with, like Castlevania Symphony of the Night and all that stuff. I'm not very big on it. I'm not a big fan of Mega Man and all that stuff. I have a YouTube where I do gameplay. If any viewer here or any subscriber on my own personal channel, if they ever want me to play one of these games, I will do it for them. And if I own a 2D side scroller game, I will definitely do it. And I'm planning on doing like a walkthrough playlist of like indies specifically to showcase them. But 2D is not going to be something that I'm going to focus on. It's just not for me, really. Okay, go ahead and skip this guy. However, the game seems pretty interesting, and it seems like they're adding a lot of story into it. So to me, that's a plus. I like story. Whoa. Okay. This is a little high quality there in art style. Interesting. See,
Another
another-
2D game.
Yeah, most indie games are going to be 2D because it's easier. Millions of monsters. Okay. Oh, okay.
Bro, is
The
this like a
sound
2D
effect-
a
this is
2D
looking
Bloodborne?
Yeah, it's starting to look like a 2D Souls game. It's starting to look like a very serious game.
It almost like, I mean, is it 2D or is it like 2.5D?
It's 2D, just that the art style is
Kind of looks a little
source
3D.
of madness. That looks pretty interesting. And it seems like they're going to release on Steam first. So that's good.
Hi, my name is
Very
Peter.
happy about
So
that.
that's
Oh,
kind of
And we
curious
are
how you
based at
said
Bleak
in
Hill,
one sentence, oh, that 2D
and we are
looks bad, and then the
developing
next one is like, oh no, but that one looks.
No, I didn't say it looked bad.
Oh, okay. Well, it's just not for you. You said right.
No,
like,
it's
it
not for
wasn't-
me.
Yeah.
In a parallel dimension.
What's this?
I have no idea.
The game
This
is,
is new.
inspired by Half-Life 2, Bioshock, and the
Oh,
works
inspired
of
by
David
Half-Life
Lynch.
2, eh?
Ooh.
In this video,
Those
we want
words
to give you an
are-
exclusive
Those are some pretty
insight
big words.
into what
That's
we're
a lot to
working
live
on
up to.
right now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start by saying that. Okay. Interacting with the environment, picking up items. Good. Very
Is
old
this
school.
what they call a boomer shooter?
Yes. It's very much like Half-Life. It's what they say, right? If
First
you
thing
want a
to
certain
show
type of game
is
to
the
come out,
new
make it
enemy
yourself.
type
Well, that's what this guy's doing. He
called
clearly
the
wants
Half.
Half-Life 3. I could see it already. He
If
wants
you take
Half-Life 3, so he just created his own Half-Life.
means to have a leader, and the other pack just follow that.
This looks interesting.
I can't listen to what he's saying, but I hope that he is saying something about like involving survival and stealth and all that stuff. Because the only thing I dislike about boomer shooters is they always force you to play one style of gameplay and it's always shoot everything.
Mhm.
I understand that people like that, but
The
giving
second
depth
thing we
and,
want to show
and
you
different
is
forms of
the
like
optic,
interacting
which
with the
you can
game
see right
or like different ways to play it is obviously a better thing for their game. And, for an indie game, the graphics look pretty decent, right? I'm not expecting them to give me photorealism.
My
But,
only
uh,
concern is why are the frames looking so rough? I don't know if it's just because of the fact that
Because
it's
he's
still-
showing actual gameplay. This is his actual game.
No, yeah, but I'm saying like, is this like a performance issues? Is this
Yeah.
something that's going wrong with the stream?
No, I think it's a performance issue. Mind you, these guys don't have that E3 magic to spruce up the frames or whatever for the sake of showcasing it. These guys, they don't have that. They don't have that kind of money. They can't go to a random developers like, hey, make me a CGI trailer. This is just the game.
Yeah, but I'm saying like if I
Hundreds and
buy
thousands
this
of
game
people
on
visit the
PC,
city.
I
I
don't know if it's available
guarantee you,
on
you
PC.
will have minimum 30 to 60 FPS.
Okay, good.
Minimum. I guarantee you it'll be solid.
Throughout
Or
the
at
game,
least, you know, it won't look as poorly
Wide
framed as this.
world
This is
of
clearly like
where they
early
come
in
from,
its
the
Early development.
yeah.
with the
It's
path
not a
to
full
play a
thing.
character.
Oh, I like how interactive the environment is.
Yeah, that's actually like Half-Life. So it's clear that he drew inspiration from that game. That game has grandfathered so many FPS games,
Mhm.
narrative development, and storytelling in FPS. So thank you, Valve. Make Half-Life 3. Half-Life 3 confirmed. Not playing. I wish. I do like that he's using a specific art style with like a WW2 kind of drawback.
If you want to support us,
For like the
feel free
enemies and
to
stuff,
request
like kind of like
us
like they're
Steam,
creating Industria.
Tent, or
I don't- I do
social
not
media
want
like
any of
Twitter
those
and
robots to like get to you. Like I imagine that the
See you
death
next
you would
time.
suffer at their hands is not going to be a very pleasant one.
I'm gonna be a negative Nelly and just say that he probably won't have that all that animated because it's an indie company.
Look at this
Mm.
It's kind of hard to get to that, but it'll still be great. You know.
The concept is pretty gruesome.
This place is definitely not what it used to be.
Okay, this looks like it's some type of horror narrative game.
It's
sort of
like a
mysterious
snake
na-
shedding its
narrative
skin
game.
over and over again.
People disappearing.
You have to learn it all over again.
Wow.
Feel it.
Okay.
Tame it.
Well, sometimes that's another thing
I
too. It's
feel
like
you getting
people look at
closer to
games
the
like
heart of
Edith
evil.
Finch and those
By the way,
old
let me
school
ask
like
you: do you want
walking
to be able to hear
simulators.
the video better, but like the stream, for the stream to hear us still just as well? Because I think I figured out how to do it in my mind.
Igor.
I mean, if you want to tamper with it, sure. I wouldn't want to tamper too much so we don't screw up anything.
Well, maybe not right now. We can just keep talking about it maybe for the next stream.
Yeah. Okay. So this is starting. Okay, this is starting to look pretty interesting now. You're exploring. There's a lot of mystery and stuff, and then there's like survival combat. Look at that. Like you got to put on a mask and go through poison. See, this is kind of interesting because this is already narrative development, right? They're starting to showcase like a lot of paranormal crap that's going on with like a certain part of the world. I can't, like I said, I can't hear, so I don't know what it is. But it seems like this might be something like the Chernobyl thing that happened.
Mm-hmm. It kind of gives me Resident Evil vibes, like the new first-person ones.
I say it's giving me Chernobyl feelings, and it's called Chernobylite. I swear, I'm so spot on with this stuff. Oh look, this is that game I was showing you, the Korean game with the
Oh.
TMC style combat. Look, now they're getting closer to the final thing. And look,
Wait,
now
this
it's a
isn't
male
the one
character.
with the dragon, is it?
No, not that one.
No,
that
that
was
was
Lost
Chinese,
Soul
it's
Side. This is the other one, the one that I showed you, where it's like a chick, and then the guy was like fighting this one enemy for like an hour.
Mm-hmm.
This is now he switched. This is like the same game, I'm pretty sure, but you see now the character model changed, so I don't know if you get to pick different characters. But I do like now that I'm seeing the enemies die a lot faster, which makes me feel powerful. Before it was kind of annoying. Sorry guys. Before it was kind of annoying because it seemed like you would spend so long to just fight one enemy for the sake of combat, but now it seems like he kind of started to get a little bit of a balance on what type of damage you should be giving the boss or regular enemies and all that stuff. And I like that there might be different characters.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that he keeps the other character too, that he originally showcased. I don't remember the name of this game. I think it was what was it? It was called? It was Project something, right? I'm sure they'll say it here at the end of this.
Yeah, I'm not exactly familiar with
The name, right?
what the name is. I
Yeah,
just remember that you showed it to me and that looked cool.
Yeah. Ultra Age. is the
Ultra
name of
Age.
this.
Yo,
Okay.
you know, big ups to them for making that game because it looks really cool. But I actually really wanted the Chinese one they showed me instead. But you told me that
Lost
one,
Soul Aside. Yeah, but okay. But that game's been in development 2 extra years. It's also being backed by Sony. It's not fair.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not fair. You know?
That's true. That's true. I want that one to come out already though.
But no, but that game is hopefully gonna come out this year next. I'm sure they're gonna show it at the Sony reveal or whatever.
dude, this looks like a PS1 game. It's pretty cool.
Dope.
Gives me the PS1 vibes.
That Hitman. Oh wait, this looks like Max Payne.
Oh, it's a third-person shooter. Is it? I can't
Yeah,
tell.
it's Max Payne. Somebody finally created another Max Payne. Yo, that's so dope. Dude, it's been such a long time since a game like Max Payne has been around. Like, they were the only ones that involved that Matrix style, like throwing yourself into the ground and stuff in slow motion shooting, like movies.
This looks like something that I'm desperately gonna want to
Yeah,
play.
I want to play this now. I don't care if the graphics look the way they do. That's gonna be fun. Max Payne was crazy. El Paso,
Oh,
elsewhere.
I still dig the look of it. Actually, I think that's actually nice graphics.
Well, yeah, the PS1 graphic style art. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it has that retro feel to it, you know.
El Drama. Oh look, he's mixing Lovecraft with Castlevania Symphony of the Night. See, look, this is another game that's inspired by Castlevania and stuff. Yeah, man. I mean, we haven't had Castlevania in a long time, so I'm glad to see all these games drawing inspiration. Even though it may not appeal to me. I'm hoping that these guys can get enough following to keep producing these games.
Dude,
because
I
these
mean,
games
look
are
how
cool.
cool this looks.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited. Like I said, I'm a big Symphony of the Night fan, so I'm willing to give all these games a shot, whether I play them on my Nintendo Switch or whether I play them on PS5. Whether people want me to play them on my YouTube videos or not, or whether I just want it for fun, I'm looking forward to it. You know. Ooh, a
Man,
whip.
that's crazy. So I'm wondering if every character has their own fight style. It looks
Well,
like
I was seeing like an RPG level up menu, so I'm assuming that there could be specializations or something. Elder End.
wish list today.
Oof. Big oof.
So
Giant
wish
oof.
listing like buying it early and like paying to like pre-ordering almost.
Sort of. Yeah, sort of. I don't know the exact thing. Don't quote me on it, but the galaxy's deadliest obstacle
What is this?
course. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know any of these. These are all new. I'm excited. Oh, dude. This is literally Ninja Warrior, but like it's futuristic game with like parkour and
Oh,
stuff.
cool. So this looks like it's basically gonna be the game that commentary YouTubers play now.
Yeah,
From
exactly.
now on, whenever they make a video talking about any
I've been
random
seeing a lot of
subject
these
over
games
it.
get rise like all over YouTube because speedrunners. This is gonna be the speedrunner fuel right here, right? Like speedrunners are gonna love this crap. Not crap, it's a good game, but you know what I'm saying. They're gonna love this type of stuff. Run, die, run again. I like it
Interesting.
because it reminds me of you know that show that what is it, Ninja Warrior or Greatest Ninja Warrior or whatever, with the obstacle course stuff. That's what this looks like. And it's gonna be dope. Oh, look, breath. Oh, Kenna. Oh, that's right. Kenna Bridge of Spirits is an indie game. It's not really. It's not a Sony. I forgot that it's not. They don't owned by Sony. They're technically indie. They're just being funded by Sony.
Wow. Oh well, so that's the power of indie when it has a lot of money behind it. Oh,
yeah,
that's
of course.
crazy.
Well, I mean, they did the Ocarina of Time recreation in the Unreal Engine, but this is like their thing. And oh, this looks like those old school Nickelodeon games you get on PS2 and stuff. That one specific image. Dope. Okay, well, I'm excited for a lot of these indie games. I wouldn't say all of them, but I'm excited for a lot of them, and I can't wait to play them. That Kenna Bridge of Spirit just being hinted at, just like we got gameplay.
They got delayed, didn't they?
Huh?
They got delayed, didn't
What
they?
is popping? I am here with
Kenna?
Ariel Knight.
Yeah, it was supposed to come out in April and it got pushed back to August.
Just released his game. What's
Well,
up,
at least
man?
it's coming
What's
out
up,
near my
dude?
birthday.
Assuming
He just released his game.
it doesn't get
Never
delayed again, you know. I think that game has to be close to being over. I'm sorry I'm shifting around so much. If I'm off count, I'm sorry. It's just my cystectomy is acting up again, and the
No,
pills
you're
aren't
actually
working.
on
So
camera just fine.
okay, just making sure.
What in the world is
Yeah,
this?
honestly, I'm excited for Kenna. I think if Kenna comes out, we'll have a lot to talk about on that day. It's definitely next on my list right after Ratchet and Clank. That's like the next game I'm looking forward to buying and supporting. Hopefully they whatever rumors they were going about that the game's in a mess, it's not true, and then the game turns out to be amazing. Okay, this looks like this looks like like an RPG Maker sort of thing, where you kind of create the world as you go through it. This is kind of like a really enhanced text adventure where there's a lot of doodling and stuff.
Interesting. I couldn't hear the song out that well
Guild-
for the ad that
Guild of
much.
Dungeoneering. There you go.
So I don't know if I don't know how the song actually sounded, but just from the little bit I sounded, it actually sounded a smidge annoying for the ad. I was just like, I wish the song sounded different.
It's just they're trying to match the art style in the world, right?
Yeah, it was
That
something
just kind of
wacky. I
sucks
guess.
that maybe it doesn't resonate
What's
with
this
everybody.
here? This is kind of interesting.
Pokemon, but for PlayStation.
Really?
No, I'm playing. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Well, no, we have Temtem, right? I think PS4 has Temtem, which is like another Pokemon knockoff. But I do like the art style already. Very nice, different, refreshing, not super hyper realistic or whatever, which we have too much of that already.
The houses reminded me of Fable 1, which
Lol.
you know, that's a random fun fact there.
Lol.
Okay, some generic stuff about the evil spreading, darkness, all that good stuff. Destiny 3 confirmed.
When in doubt, make a good versus evil story. Right? Easiest thing you can do. Mystery, loss, depression, animals. Why does this look like Pokemon? It looks like Pokemon.
I don't understand what the game's going for. Oh, it's like
Oh, crafting. Okay, interesting. So you can grab resources.
third-person Minecraft.
I found it a little weird that she grabbed an axe to break a rock, but whatever. Game.
Wasn't that a tree?
It didn't look like it to me. A Grow Song of the Evertree. Okay, interesting. I think people who like Animal Crossing will definitely like this type of game for sure. Oh, look, side scroller RPG. Interesting. Or maybe turntable game. I don't know. Turn-based. Oh no. Michael, come on.
Everyone, close your eyes.
Oh no.
Right.
You probably put it on theater mode.
Heroes are rampaging the temple. We need a miracle. More blood?
This is gonna have Egyptian backdrop. That's cool. We don't have too much Egyptian stuff in games, so that's not a theme that's or mythology that's heavily explored. So it's kind of nice.
Get murked.
We have problems. Help us. Throws him off cliff or whatever.
A hippopotamus.
You know, I gotta say, like critically speaking, like out of my own opinion, a lot of these games are very interesting. And now that I'm having the opportunity to go into indies, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I don't know how my future's gonna look, and I'm mostly gonna stick to obviously the AAA games that I want to play for now, or like the big ones they showed off, like Ken and all that stuff, because I might not have enough time to play as many games as I want, especially now with like I have to get a job soon and do a bunch of things to kind of get my life going, especially after I graduate at the end of the summer. But I'm hoping to take a lot of time to play a lot of these games and really lose myself in these worlds, for sure.
And explore distant
without the stress of school or whatever.
New resources and hidden treasures.
It's like a 3D Terraria. Or
Yeah.
no, like a top-down Terraria.
Or it could just be a Breath of the Wild version, 2D version of Breath of the Wild, you know, with like creation and whatnot.
Since Tinkertown went into early access last
It
November,
looks a lot. I mean, there's a lot of these games that had this type of stuff. Even the original Legend of Zelda was kind of like this, picking up items and stuff around the world. Oh, you can create your own character. That's cool.
Weapons, housing, to decorations, farming.
No, yeah, but this is very,
Very enhanced,
specifically like a
farming,
top-down
fishing,
Terraria.
Fishing,
3D
enhancing. Yeah, there's fishing. It looks like there's crafting, cooking, all that stuff.
And as we
Well, I don't think you can call it
building.
3D because it doesn't look like you can move up, but rather, like, you know, it's top-down and then you just move
awesome
in
features.
in all
direction.
directions.
Wait.
8-way.
So beware
Nice. Okay.
of the desert dungeon. The desert dungeon not only
No, the
delivers
dungeon can
new
change
enemies,
biome.
but with it,
You're
we've
entering a
added
new biome.
behavior trees to all our NPCs, making them more
I like how they always show on the left like how they create the game for the pathing and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of cool. It gives you a little bit of insight into the development, and that's what I like about the Guerilla Collective, right? They always show cool things like this, which I find extremely interesting. Yeah, look, it even says down there on the bottom right, it's an early access version 0.6. So this is still like being made. This is why PC gamers are always saying that PC is better, right? Because they've been missing out on so many of the AAA games coming out as exclusives to Xbox or PlayStation for a long time. They're mostly relegated to indies and all that stuff to feed, you know, their gaming habits, but they have a point. Like all these games have a story to tell that's usually very impressionable.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of the stuff that you get out of indie studios tends to be more unique than a lot of what bigger studios tends to put out.
And because they can't match like the bigger companies that usually make games like this, which is being made with old school in mind, right? And a lot of PC gamers, people who play PC generally are old school gamers that played all those old style of RPGs and strategy games and all that. So it's all right up their alley, right? They're gonna enjoy this stuff. And funny enough, I'm looking forward to getting a PC. Maybe I might not get an Xbox, so I can just get everything on PC, but it depends on what's available or not. And of course, the Switch, if the Switch Pro ever gets announced. But yeah, I'm very excited, honestly.
Very interesting.
If I'm being honest, this game kind of doesn't speak to me too much. I'm not big on these type of like take your time or take your turn to attack, especially with the fact that it's within the limited scope of certain tile sets that you can move. Like I really don't like those type of games because it's like, to me it's like you have to be hyper specific in how you use your strategies in the game, and that to me I kind of find annoying.
Well,
other than
it's
that-
that's the whole point. It's to kind of challenge you to see how well you can think or like problem
Yeah.
solve within the rules of the game or whatever.
Yeah, it's like chess, but it's too restrictive for me. Like I like to have a little bit more freedom in how I can fight and stuff. Like I really tolerate turn-based RPGs, right? So for me to deal with some of this, it's kind of like I have to really get into it one day in order for, or I have to let myself get captured by it. If that's the best way to put it.
Look how the character there that used the long-range weapon was able to reach a little further.
Gotta open up another cold one.
Yo, I was gonna tell you. Well, no, never mind. Whatever.
What?
Fizzy drinks.
Fizzy drinks.
You're gonna be burping in the mic, man.
I don't care. I gotta spread my joy and cheer for being a diet soda soldier. So respect.
You use magic to cut them off and stuff. It's pretty cool. I like, because the thing is, I feel like a lot of the games that would go for this type of thing wouldn't be it wouldn't be the most like it wouldn't give you the most freedom, but it looks like for the type of game that this is, it really does have a lot of interactivity and a lot of different ways that you could play it.
Yeah, this is the kind of game that, in my mind, the setting that I would play it in is if I use a laptop and it's a very crappy laptop, and then I'm in a workspace and I just want to nod off for like a couple like 20-30 minutes or an hour, a couple hours maybe, and just play. And I don't have a gaming PC or anything at work, so in the workspace this is what I would play, right? Because it's the only thing that could run on my PC or laptop or whatever. But that's just the setting I'm imagining it in.
Yeah, such dope stuff.
There's a lot of cool stuff. I mean, we don't have to watch the rest of this because we've already gotten an hour into this, unless you want to keep watching and you want to see something cool. But I think we'll watch the rest of it off stream. But basically, just to move on with the topics, there's a lot of cool games to come out, and the reason why I wanted to show that is because I want to show people that there's more to it than just simply whatever you see, right? I want people to acknowledge that there's more out there than 10 games they show you at E3 every year. I want people to see that aside from what Sony, Nintendo, the Switch, and the Xbox showcase, indie games are out there, and there's a lot of unique experiences that can be had. I think it's a fair point.
Yeah, I mean that stream right there is like 5 hours. So, and just, I mean, if I'm being honest, in the I don't even know how long we were on that video for because we skipped all the conversation and stuff. No way.
Maybe like 50 minutes.
We skipped, you see, because the podcast itself has been an hour and 40 minutes. So probably like 20, 30 minutes we were on there.
Oh.
Just in that short amount of time, I saw way more uniqueness, in my opinion, than what I've seen in any Microsoft conference, any Sony conference. We saw a lot more versatility and just a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I did see some cool stuff also in the Sony conferences and stuff, but like this had way more variety to me, in my opinion.
Right. Okay.
You saw like a bunch of concepts that you would not ever see coming out of any big studios that wouldn't be like either a first person shooter, a racing game, or some sort of an action adventure with a story.
Yeah. No, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I mean, I, for the most part, have enjoyed indie games before, and I keep saying it. Out of the few indie games that I played, Flower was like the one that spoke to me for whatever reason. Like I know Journey was great and all that, and back in 2013, 2014, but Flower just, I don't know, it just speaks to me. And it's literally just a game about a flower petal that gets.
It just sometimes those flower petals hit different. What can I say?
It hits different. Yes, indeed.
I personally, I've been out of the indie space for quite a while, but then again, I've also just haven't played that many games. Period. I had a period of time where like from 2014, 2015 onward, I really wasn't playing that many games. I just got enveloped in working and exercising and stuff, and I just didn't make time for it. So I have like a big blackout period there. But honestly, I'm glad that I finally was able to reconnect with this hobby of mine, especially with everything that happened 2020 and forward. It was just the perfect storm for me to get back into it, and I'm gonna keep pushing to do more. And I think I'm also gonna delve back into the indie scene because I just see them releasing basically everything that I've been craving, which I don't think I'm ever gonna get from a AAA studio probably ever again. Just the
Well, no, don't be like that. Don't be so negative. I'm sure it's coming around. The problem is that from 2013 to 2020, my theory is that developers looked at development. They saw the change that they had to make, the changes they had to make for graphics and gameplay and all that stuff, and they realized, right, that they're gonna need more time. I think now with the PS5 and the Xbox and the PC and where we're going in terms of game development, that they realize now how far they need to take it before they can start, okay, let's just stop here and work with what we have. And I think that's going to invite a lot of things that are going to be interesting. The AAA scape is obviously always going to be a risk factor, and they're always going to try and play it safe because they got to make their money back. They're spending far more money. I agree with that. But with games like Returnal still coming out, games like Kenna Bridge of Spirit existing and being funded by like a company like Sony, for example, there's a space for it. And I'm sure that they're going to still have these experiences for you, and especially the ones that you like.
That's valid. That's fair.
Granted, most of the things you like come from Nintendo anyways, so I mean, you shouldn't be worried. They just take forever. Okay, so now let's move on to the next big topic, because this leads into the part that we were talking about earlier about, hey, don't believe the hype. Hype yourself based on what you like, not what other people say you should like, because you shouldn't let other people decide what you should like or dislike. Critics, don't listen to them. We just discussed this like 30 minutes, almost an hour ago. They BS a lot for the sake of viewership, for the sake of getting you on board with reading their articles, for the sake of getting views and all stuff, for the sake of getting payment, for the sake of getting the proper deals. Just don't do it, right? Especially like all these articles that you see, like, oh, Herman Hulse says this, or CEO says that, or this and that is being said. Those are PR conversations. They're not honest. It's just not the honest opinion, right? Look at I'm not going to name names, but if people want to search it up, basically, based off of these keywords, there's basically a critic that when they reviewed Returnal, they docked points because the word Xeno was used too much in the game. Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Simply because it reminded them of Xeno being alien and that being paraded as like a part of the Democrats' campaign to push forward like diversification through that, and then something I don't know.
Basically,
something
they made
like,
it political.
They brought politics into the game that has nothing to do by way of politics. I've told you already, not to avoid some spoilers for people that want to experience Returnal. It has nothing to do with anything. It's literally Groundhog Day. That's the whole game.
Yeah. And
Literally.
People have to realize that not everything has the meaning that they want to assign to it. If you can crack open a dictionary and see that a certain word has 10 different definitions or whatever, 10 different use cases, then don't just presume that it's going to be that is being used in the context that you hate the most. Like, obviously, if you play Returnal and you see, I'm a little afraid for your abilities of perception or analysis if you find politics to be anywhere in the game, because if anything, it's more really obviously the gameplay style
choice for the statement.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you look at what the game is, it's in an alien planet. You're a space explorer of sorts or whatever. Yeah. It's a bullet hell. It's a bullet hell. Third person shooter survival game, whatever you want to call it. But,
right. This isn't. When they do that stuff, this isn't them being like what Epic did with the Apple thing, where they recreated Apple's like advertisement video within the game to champion the fact that they're suing Apple or whatever, or taking them to court. It's not the same thing, right? When, especially now, I'm sure that this dude, the guy who came out and spoke about the fact that Far Cry isn't making a statement about Cuba, but it's making a statement against socialism in general or dictatorship, like they're gonna get flack because it's inevitable, right? They're making a political statement or they're trying to make a point, but it's in a fictional world. They're not tying it to anything in real life. But again, going back to the critic thing, them attaching Xeno to politics and then letting that influence the way they review things. This is why you shouldn't listen to critics, because they're going to say they're objective, but what you're not seeing is that they're just going to put their point of view and opinion into their own objective critiquing. It doesn't exist. There's no way you can objectively look at something without completely defying your own personal experience and opinion. Experience is a valid part of how you portray or explain something to someone, right? Whether you say, hey, look, that's good or that's bad, you're basing it off of your experience, which again is objective because you might like something that other person might or might not.
Mhm.
I think, Michael, you can agree with me this.
Yeah. What I was gonna say, or what I want to kind of bring it to, is how we were talking about that. If you're going to objectively review a game, which ultimately your experience with the game or how you enjoy it or whatever is all subjective, right? But if you are going to review it, you should kind of make it about something that matters, right? Like, I don't know, like let's say in the case of Returnal criticizing the use of the of Xeno, right?
Right.
That's kind of almost like me just saying, oh, I really wish that the Returnal protagonist would be dressed in blue instead of yellow or in white. Or
Yeah. Oh,
red
game
and blue
back
instead of
because
yellow
it
and
wasn't
white.
blue, right?
Like it's something that ultimately doesn't really do anything to discredit or make the game any better or worse. It's just kind of like an artistic decision that is clearly based in the fact that you're exploring an alien world, which is what the whole prefix Xeno even comes to mean. Like if you look in a dictionary, nowhere does it mention anything about a political movement when you see Xeno. It's in terms it's referring to just alien or foreign or whatever, unknown, whatever you want to say. The
Right.
point is that I'm trying to make is, and we were talking about this the other day, is that when I think that when people review games, that they ultimately should really be doing it based off their experience of what, like, how they enjoyed or how if they
Right.
didn't enjoy the game. That's kind of what you do when you're reviewing, right? Like, what's the point of reviewing a game? It's like you're giving the game a score to let people know I found this game to be good. I found the game to be bad. You're not trying to make a statement with
Right.
your reviews necessarily, which
Right.
I mean, you could, when it comes to stuff like, analysis on like maybe some things that are a tad bit more subjective, like say, like the narrative of
Yeah.
the game or like things like character development. Sure, give it your own 2 cents, and if you could read into it maybe on a different level,
Right.
or see something that maybe the creators didn't intend you to. But for the most part, when you're talking about playing a game, I think what you should be reviewing or what you should be talking about is like your enjoyment of the experience. Like,
Yes.
did you enjoy the experience? Did you like the campaign? Did you like, if the game has multiplayer? Did you like the multiplayer? How many hours
What
did you
like?
spend on
What
it?
did you dislike?
Mhm.
What
What did you
put you off?
dislike? What's like the
Where did you get your cutoff point?
exactly what ratio of the game did you enjoy? Like, let's say the game's 100 hours long. Did you only enjoy 10 hours of it? Maybe, maybe that could tell you something. Maybe, like, let's say the main story was 10 hours.
Yeah.
So to you, the main story of the game is fantastic, but then maybe the game's loaded with a bunch of extra side content that fills it up to 100 hours. You kind of have to balance these things and see.
Yeah. Okay, hold off your point on that. We're gonna get to that. That what you're explaining to me is gonna lead into the next topic. But just to close off the comment on critics real quick. Always remember that they're there to spruce up the thing beyond what it is for the sake of enjoyment and viewership. Always remember that no matter how objective they are, it's always their opinion. And 3, always cross-reference between different critics and opinions and stuff.
Well, that's
in the same way you do
actually-
with the news. You don't just watch CNN. You watch CNN, Fox, and whatever, and you watch all the different ones and get all their opinions to see how far you can take, how much of the story is
Well,
put together,
I
right?
don't necessarily want to get into that. I was thinking of a different analogy that I think could just be more reasonable.
Well, no, but
where
that
even-
analogy that you're bringing up is what is the basis of the next topic.
No. But I had another one that I want to bring because you're. I mean, this podcast so far, I feel like you've been almost going into a lot of topics that are almost outside of gaming. So I'll tie it into like a quicker, more
Okay.
easier to understand analogy. Because when you're talking about, let's put it how it is, right? Because politics, that's something that's more. How can I put it? It's like something that's more that has to do with the realm of ideas. I think game criticism, sure, it's like half. It's like kind of half in the camp of like dealing with the world of ideas, and then also half in like objectivism, right? Like you could obviously look at a game like God of War and say that it has better graphics than Ocarina of Time. I'm just drawing that dichotomy plain and simple because it's like a super old game versus a
Something
very
that's
modern
fresh and
game with
recent.
like a
Yeah.
very big
Yeah.
budget or whatever. But I think to the point of what you were saying, it's kind of like even as something as objective as like, let's say a doctor's consultation where you're having this issue and you're wanting to know what's up with you, you should still get a second opinion.
Right.
Because you don't, like the person could be wrong, or they could have a different motive for giving you that certain opinion, right? Like, not saying that, that there's no one trustworthy out there, but for your own benefit to really see, to really get the most complete picture, I think the healthiest thing for you to do in anything is to get a second opinion. So same thing, if you're trying to watch reviews for a game, don't just stop at 1 or 2, see 10, and consider watching people that are big, people that are small, people that tend to be more optimistic, people that tend to be more negative, and you'll get a healthier picture of the actual product.
Yeah, the reason why is because what I'm noticing is that a lot of people, like, they'll watch certain reviewers for a bit, but then they'll just naturally gravitate to those that they feel that best represents their opinions. And that happened to me too. For a long time, I felt IGN spoke a lot to my opinions, but then I realized they're just putting high numbers on every game, right? It was rare for me to see them crap on a game, or it was rare for me to see them consider a game as a masterpiece. So I began to outsource, looking at other sources like Angry Joe, Skill Up, people who like those genres and those type of games, and then people that don't. And that's how I started to derive my opinion, and that's what draws me to this conclusion. The second thing I want to say to close off this topic, it's very short, is, to me, a critic putting something outside the genre to explain their opinion, like putting politics, is the same as a restaurant putting a real life photo of a fake type of food you'll never get in your life at that restaurant. That to me is the same as what I was taught. If you ever see real life pictures of food in your menu, get up and walk away, because you're not going to get what's being offered. It's a lie. Same thing to me with the critic. If they start putting in politics or anything that's completely outside the realm of the game, stop what you're doing, exit, click out of the tab, go to the next reviewer, because you're not going to get an honest answer from them. You're just going to get complete BS crap from them, and it's not going to have anything to do with what you're looking for.
All right,
as a final answer.
An example of that would be like if you played, I'm sorry to use this example, it's just my favorite childhood game, Ocarina of Time, and then obviously something that was supposed to be like, good versus evil, man versus nature, all that sort of stuff, and the adventure of going to save the princess and all that. Someone looks at that and says that this is a statement on, I don't know, like male and female roles in society or whatever. Like, where did you, like, where did you play this game and see this?
Anybody looks at Link in the new game and the way that you can dress him, and it's like, they're making a statement on androgynous characters. Get up, get out, don't read the review. That guy's a moron.
Yeah,
to channel a little bit of the Jaffe in there.
It's like missing the point. It's like a stretch, right? You're making a stretch.
You're making too long a stretch.
If something alludes to something or whatever, sure.
It's up to you to perceive it.
If you make an outright statement of something, then sure. But I don't know if that should necessarily decide how you're going to review a game based on like what the experience was for you. You know, like on your enjoyment of something. Yeah. Ultimately, even if you don't like a certain prefix like Xeno, how does that change if you enjoyed the combat? If you enjoy the music, the gameplay, the mechanics, that doesn't touch any of that.
Exactly. So in the same way, it's just like that. If somebody comes in and decides to put their, like,
you can nitpick something like that.
You can nitpick it, but it shouldn't influence.
It shouldn't really influence your the whole score. Like,
it's just your own perspective. Yeah, it's like, and it's something that to you, it speaks to you. It's not going to speak to everyone. If I see it all the time. Every time I see somebody bring in some BS like that, politics or some personal opinion like that has nothing to do with the game, I just stop. I completely avoid that person forever, and that's how I pick it. Right? When I start seeing that, I start seeing what company is allowing this to happen, and then I just stop going to that company altogether. Because there's no reason. Why are you involving all this crap? And I get that you want to promote,
like the most objective review that you can get. So you're not gonna want someone that brings in personalized things that you personally see as not being a part of that.
In my opinion, there's the correct avenues for it. If you want to advocate or deny or protest or whatever, those type of opinions, go to the proper channels for them. Don't bring him into other things for the sake of
basically. Like,
don't bring him into a review.
Talk to that in any talk about it in any space you have. But it's just like, is this really is a review of this game really the place to even?
Yeah, is this the part where you want to argue this? Like, no, it's not going to carry any weight. People are just going to ignore you, and you're going to be a moron, right? That's just my opinion. But that's pretty much what I wanted to say on the topic. Like, just be careful, critics. Be careful this week. Be happy that you're getting games. Don't let yourself be strived like some YouTuber. Oh, guys, I'm gonna do this in-depth review on whatever on this trailer, and all of a sudden I'm gonna go like eighth dimensional like mental gymnastics to tell you why this one pixel is off and why PC's better. Just enjoy shit. If you want to play on Xbox or PlayStation, enjoy it. If you want to play on a Switch and have less frames than everybody else, enjoy it. Like, who the fuck cares, right? The whole point of gaming that was created is for us to blow off steam and to get lost in another world. As long as a game does that for you, that's all it needs to do. That's the only job it has. The only job it has is to get you enthusiastic about the game. It's not supposed to make you protest. It's not supposed to make you change your mind. It's just supposed to help you involve yourself in the medium. That's it, right? You agree?
I agree.
Or disagree?
Yeah.
You agree?
Just
okay.
Gaming is gaming. You know, I don't know. Like, obviously, I was a kid, so.
Yeah.
I guess you could say that I was naive or something,
Yeah,
but I just remember back in the day when we used to play, I don't know, Crash Bandicoot, something like people didn't try to make it into something else,
look,
or they didn't try to be like, oh,
look, I'm gonna turn myself into one of those. I'm gonna turn myself into one of those morons, right? Mm-hmm. I'm channeling my inner David Jaffe right now, just saying morons a lot, but the point is, I'm gonna be a moron for 5 minutes, right? Ratchet and Clank canceled. Why? Because there's too much sexual innuendos in the game. You understand what I'm saying? Like, that's what a moron would say. They should cancel the game because there's sexual innuendos, or they should cancel the game because Angela, the first female Lombax they introduced, was compared to Ratchet very adult looking and had big breasts. That's dumb. Like that. Why? Why take your time to actively attack something that has nothing to do with anything? It's just stupid, and you're only trying to get attention. It's for the viewership. It's the clickbait. Just hop off.
Well, I don't know. Maybe sometimes people do like just find something like that disturbing though. Like I could tell you, I wasn't a fan of Sonic kissing a human.
No, I agree. I mean, you can. There's things that can disturb you, but let people make that distinction. Don't take it from them.
Well, right? I mean, but ultimately, like. I'm a little torn there because, I mean, something if you do find something a little odd or off-putting, I maybe you should at least be able to knock off a point. It really depends. I don't know. I guess like you see this where it gets a little bit weird because ultimately it like at least a narrative and stuff, something is subjective. I wouldn't say that. I don't know. Like, if I was to review, I'm trying to think objectively. If I'm trying to review Sonic 06, I know that the game had a lot of problems outside of just
it had frame rate issues, glitches, and a bunch of problems. Yeah.
Would you knock off a point for Sonic kissing a female girl?
It didn't bother me as much as it bothered everyone else. I wouldn't have docked a point for it. I docked a point for the fact that there's glitches and I can't play the game. Would you think that I'm
entitled to be able to knock a point down for that?
We're gonna get to that in the next topic, because that's what I'm trying to point. The reason why you shouldn't listen to critics is because ultimately they score based on their experience, not objective reasons. When you start saying, I'm going to dock a point because I felt that was wrong, you're already putting your experience and opinions into the review.
And
you're no longer being objective.
Someone else might not see it that way.
I don't care. I mean, sure, it was disgusting, but it's 2 seconds. You don't really see it. There's a white flash of light. It's implied that they kissed, but you don't really see it. You just see a white flash, and then all of a sudden you're back to being supersonic and you're flying around kicking ass.
We're still on the topic of not trusting critics. The other thing that we have to look at it too is that just like outside of just obviously reviewing games based off your personal experience, there could be other factors such as trying to kowtow to
the cat
to certain developers or being paid to like for a more favorable review and stuff. So it's just too many things. Like reviews is just something that it's there's too much going on for you to just be able to just rely on at least one critic. Like you should look at multiple critics and then also like people who are hired who are like, you know, work for companies, individual people. And I do think still, even though I know you keep repeating, don't listen to critics, I don't know if that's necessarily the right way to state it, because I'm also, you know what's been going on with me, where basically I blindly purchased like 3 different games
in the same way that they're objective. Be objective yourself and skeptical about their own experiences. That's the best way to put it.
Well, but what I'm saying is because reviews are they've essentially become a tool for consumers to gauge whether or not they want to purchase a product based on how good it's promising or it's looking to be.
But,
So
okay. What I'm trying to get at is try and reach out people that will actively make proper comments and be honest in what they see, right?
Yeah.
If you would have seen the people who were reviewing the demo, which were clearly overshadowed by all these like people like Shroud and Ninja and whoever was promoting the game, you would have seen what the game was for what it was, and you would have probably not bought it. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm trying to say. So with that in mind, we're gonna go into like how games should be reviewed in our opinion, and how we're gonna do it on the show from here on out, because I think it's a interesting thing that we should take forward. But first, I'm gonna name the critics that I trust. I'm not gonna name the ones I don't trust because I don't care for their name. I'm not gonna give them my time of day. The only people I trust, starting with the two most lighthearted people I know that they're not gonna be very imposing on their opinion, is Destin Legary from IGN, because he just actively takes a time to pick apart the game and speak to the developers and stuff and actually try and get a better understanding of the game. And this new guy that's like a bit more recent, Travis Northup, because despite the fact that he loves and is endeared by Destiny, he's still critically honest of it and showcases the parts that he dislikes and what he finds that needs to be. And I think that because of that honesty, despite the fact that he has such love for the game, is truthful in his capacity as a critic. Because when you love something, you automatically want to say it's the best thing ever. But for you to actively like sort your emotions and stuff and say, hey, look, this is what it needs to be, or this is what it actually is, that speaks a lot to the kind of individual you are. The third person you should listen to, the reason why I'm putting him third is because he doesn't really
there's
do
like an
too many
order
reviews.
of like, oh, you should
yeah, if you're gonna go based off like people who dedicate themselves to it, third. Okay, I'm not gonna put it in order. I'm just gonna put it like the first two are like if you want to read articles or like short videos. Those are from IGN. Those are the only places I go to for that. The third person is kind of an in between, and that's David Jaffe. I'm not saying it just to name drop him or whatever. It's because when he does review, he's honest. He says, "Look, the first 2 hours of the game sucked," and I saw his Resident Evil review, but I'm just gonna cap it. If you guys want to see it, it's on his YouTube channel. But basically, it's like this: the first 2 hours of the game sucked. 6 to 8 hours in the mid game, perfect. Last 2 hours of the game sucked. That's literally his opinion. He gets more in depth and he tells you why in his opinion, but he's honest about it. He says, this game has this problem. There are certain points that are great and certain points that are not. And the last two people I trust are Skill Up because he does an in-depth analysis and he gives you he takes 40 minutes, an hour to explain to you like each and every mechanic in the game, why it's good, why it's not, why he thinks that things should be changed, why there's problems, what's conflicting his opinion on it. Whether I agree or disagree with him is beyond my point, because he, at one point as a critic, I feel like there's a thing where you do it so much that maybe things you originally liked become monotonous and then they become a negative point for you in the future. But that's my opinion on that. And then the last person that you should trust is Angry Joe, because the guy does not give an F about who or what tells him what to do, and he will shit on a game if it's bad, period. He was not on board with the whole Marvel vs. Avengers thing, and he shot on it aptly. So
he's never been one to let corporate people sway his opinions on things. In fact, the main antagonist of his show is Corporate Commander.
Exactly.
So it just goes to show that's where his mind is when he talks about these games.
So with that being said, those are my top go-tos. Those are the people I would trust with their opinions, but I still don't listen to their opinion alone. I cross-reference with each of them if they all have their own input or opinion in the game.
I was thinking that this conversation is actually pretty valuable because, when we were talking about the whole presentation downgrades or E3 downgrades, in the last episode, a lot of the people in the comments when we were talking about Cyberpunk, they were like, oh, but what about Fortnite? Fortnite's so bad. And when you sit back and you really think about it, I don't think you can really claim that Fortnite's a bad game. It might not be your thing or whatever. Maybe you give it a poor review based on your experience if you played it, and that's more than fair. But if you look at it for what the game's trying to do, it's probably one of the best games out there. It has an extremely huge big player base, so enough people enjoy it to the point where they would probably call it 10 out of 10 or 5 out of 5 or whatever. It's not a big narrative adventure, which not every game has to be, It brings together a bunch of different characters from different places. It's highly competitive, and they do tons of seasons that updates the game plenty to keep it fresh.
Of course.
So, you know, honestly, some people might say that Fortnite's a 10 out of 10. Now I know that traditionally,
Well,
the way
I mean, a
that
lot of critics
award,
gave it a high score. Yeah.
yeah. Traditionally, the way that like a award and critics and stuff go is that they've usually had to review games that have like a story and stuff, because that's just how it's always been. Those always are in the front line, and then big companies were usually the people that made games and all that. But that's not the case anymore. The landscape has changed to the point where there's so many different genres. You play games for tons of different reasons. You know, now, you know, look at an example like my brother. He only plays straight up JRPGs.
Yeah.
So to him, something like God of War would never
It's
be
off-putting.
would never be a good game. Or something like
Well,
Call of
yeah,
Duty would never be a good game.
I mean, that's the kind of thing though, where it's like my problem with that and the way that I perceive it is that a lot of people again are very territorial and emotional towards the games that make the best connection to what they like. And I also feel like people, even myself, including yourself, sometimes we just really don't want to let ourselves, you know, find something new. We want to just stick with what works because we just want to be happy, right? The whole point is for us to be happy, not for us to take a gamble every time we want to play a new game. But I forced myself to take that gamble because otherwise I would have missed out on all the awesome games I've played over time. It's just plain truth. You can see it on my YouTube. 1 minute I'm playing Call of Duty, the next minute I'm playing Ratchet and Clank. The minute afterwards, which is coming up soon, is going to be Thief. And soon I'll do Oddworld, and then I'll be doing like an indie series where I'll just play a bunch of indies, and I'm going to be playing games of all sorts. So with that being said, let's jump over to what your points that you were bringing up, right? So you were saying like how a person can review a game based off of like 100-hour experience and only like 10 of it. And then, so I don't know if you want to take over any other points you wanted to add to that.
I was just saying when I was talking about that, I was just basically saying that like the fairest way that you can review a game is just based off your own experience. You know, you look at what it is that you liked about the game, right? I like, because this is actually it's good that we came to this conversation because I was thinking about it. And
well, we talked about it a few days ago, but yeah.
Yeah. I was always I've been wanting to jump into game reviews for quite a while, but I just didn't know how to do it, and I wanted to try to be as objective as possible. Obviously, with something like a game review, because ultimately,
but there's no way, right?
Yeah, there's no perfect way to do it, because I'm like, okay, let's say if I do a rubric and I want to do it based on a scale of 10, do I, 1 point? Should 1 point be the story? I was like, wait, no, that doesn't work. Not every game has a story. Like, should 1 point be the multiplayer? I was like, no, that doesn't work. And not every game is has a multiplayer. Oh, should I do graphics? I was like, yeah, but then there's some, there's games that go for hyper realism, but then there's some games that are like stylistically made a certain way on purpose. So it's stuff that you have to give it a little bit of thought, right? And use some creative license, I guess, in terms of like how you rate these things. You can't just objectively say like, I don't know, to give you an example, God of War, you could see the pores on his head. Terraria, I'm looking at pixels. Terraria worse. Like it doesn't just function that way. You have to have like nuance when you're talking about these sort of things to really give it a fair score as
right.
As
you can
much
even
as
look
possible.
like, you can say like, oh, 2D games look bad, but we just saw like cases in the Guerilla Collective that there were 2D games that like involved art that was like expression art, for example, that's completely different from real life graphics, but it still
or even
looked
like
pretty
pixel art
interesting.
that took it a step further by adding like shading and light sources and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you have that's one of the great thing about games is that it's a medium for artistic expression in everything, from creation to how you play it to just everything. So there is going to be quite a bit of subjectivity when you're reviewing games. So that's where I was saying that the best way to do it is based off your experience, and you have to look at tons of different things. Basically, I think for me personally, how I would review a game now after talking to you and finally realizing that what you're saying is truth. Like you can't just apply the same scale or rubric to just every game and just be like, yeah, run with it. I don't know. It's like kind of hard to do it. I guess I would use like a combination of pleasure, like how pleased I was with it, with a ratio of how much I felt I was pleased, like what percentage of the game I was pleased with, I guess. And then specifically maybe like a combination of that and doing a list of pros and cons. So like, let's say if I liked the musical score of a game, that's something that has to have some sort of weight there, I think, right?
Yeah.
If I like the mechanics of the gameplay, that's something that has to have some weight there.
Okay.
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 I guess narrative If it's a game that's intended to deliver a narrative experience, that's something that then I would have to rate, right? Like, okay, so I guess the best way to put it, because I don't want to just give you my whole rubric, I guess, is like you have to look at the intention.
Okay.
You have to look at the intention of a game.
We're not just discussing how reviews should be made. We're actually, like, right now I transition into how we think it should be done, and also what we're gonna do in our show.
Oh, okay.
So
well,
feel free to put in your input because we're gonna craft it right now.
Okay. Well, I would have to talk about that with you so to know how we're gonna do it.
No, we're doing this now on air.
I'm gonna give you. No, yeah, but I have to. You have to be a part. You have to be. You have to contribute to the conversation.
Give me all your points first, and then we'll talk about it.
Okay, fair. But what I was trying to say is that because this goes into that, I guess, is that you have to look at what a game is trying to sell you.
Yeah.
Or what they claim or what they're attempting to do, and then you kind of measure how well they were able to deliver on that, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to look at Fortnite and be like, trash game, no story, blah, blah, get out of here. Obviously, that's not the purpose of the game.
Right.
Now, a game like Legend of Zelda or God of War, which
free,
does have
so
a narrative aspect to it, I'm going to be like, okay, so obviously the one of the main things about this game is the story that you're experiencing.
Right.
How attached am I to the characters? How well are they developed? Yep. Does the plot make sense? Am I emotionally invested?
Right.
You know, all that sort of stuff. Does it make sense?
Right.
So you need kind of like it's almost like a living, breathing rubric that changes depending on what it is that you're reviewing. And then I guess to cap it off, and then I'll hand it off to you. It has to be a combination of how like your pleasure, like how pleased you were playing the game, and then objectively how well something did at what they were trying to sell you. I guess that's the best way I could put it. I don't know what you think about that.
No, okay. These are all valid points, and they should. I personally think, which is the one I was talking to you about like 2 days ago, and I'm gonna or 3 days ago. I'm gonna explain it to you here. Again, because I thought about it some more and I added some more things. Okay, so essentially all those points should be a supplement to your opinion as to why a game deserves the score it does.
Mm-hmm.
But the score should solely be based on how much engagement you had with the game, right? So let's put it. It's just simple terms. Obviously it's going to change in genre to genre because a fighting game and a PvP game can't fall into the same categories. But I'll put it as simple as this. Let's say I played Horizon, and throughout the entire journey, it was a 10-hour game.
Mm-hmm.
But throughout the journey, to get to certain quests, I had to do obviously some power leveling, this and that, which required 2 hours of power leveling in between doing side quests and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Those 2 hours I hated.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like them. I only liked 8 hours out of the 10 hours I played the game. The game for me is an 80% out of 100. So I had 80% engagement rate and 80% fulfillment and enjoyment. That is how much the game is worth. Simple. With an indie game, let's say the indie game is 4 hours long, but I 100% enjoyed the 4 hours long, 100% engagement rate, 100% perfect game.
All right. But what do you how do you measure that then? Like, let's say as a PvP game, because you did mention that, which is something that we have to mention. So like a PvP game, a fighting game, something like that.
The problem is that with PvP, it's very open ended, so it's kind of hard to put it. But it depends on what's featured. So for example, in a game like Fortnite, it's free to play, so I can't really base off of price. The game has a lot of hours, but it's basically the way that I could put it is that the engagement has none because it's only based on how interested you are in what the game offers. So if people like the skins and stuff and they want to play endless hours to grind for them, it might be like 100% engagement rate.
Well,
but there might be people that only like 10 hours of it.
Like the reason why you'd play it, like let's say you could do like what's that mode called, Fortnite versus the World or whatever.
Save the world, yeah, but that's a completely different game.
There's like Fortnite Save the World, or you could do the PvP, the classic battle royale. Or you could also do custom games too,
right? Which
lets you make your own maps and all that crazy stuff too.
And that's what I'm trying to say. With games like that it's open ended, it's up to how much you want to put into it and what you're deriving from it. So it's kind of hard. If the game has a price, I mean, we could say an hour per $1 is fair. And if you enjoy 60 hours of it, then you have 100% fulfillment. If you get bored of it after the second hour, the game's like atrocious for you. But it's different.
I think in the case like something that's very open ended.
Yeah.
Something that might be a healthy practice would be to compare it to a title that did something similar and then kind of measure your feelings on that as well.
Yeah, like that. I think for those games, it'd be kind of weird, and we have to go case by case because every game, in that point, those games are all different.
Mm-hmm.
But for example, in a game like Destiny, there's an end, and that's the end of the content. I paid $40, and by the time I get to the end of the raid, that's the end of my content.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say I enjoyed the first 5 hours of the campaign. I was bored like 40 hours of grinding, and then I enjoyed the last hour of the game. So I enjoyed 6 hours out of the 46 hours. That's pretty bad.
pretty bad, huh?
In my eyes, it's pretty bad. Despite the fact that I may love the game, I might play it, and I'll still buy the next expansion. It's pretty bad that the engagement rate was only 6 hours of enjoyment out of 46, for example. Right?
What would you rate that? Like, how would you give it an official rating, or
Yeah,
do you
it's
just
it's
say,
simple.
oh, hours and that's it?
It's by engagement rate.
Do you
It's
do like
just
a percentage? Do you do a scale of 10? Do you do a scale of 5?
No. It's just engagement rate. I mean, if you want to flip it to whatever number that you want to put it, that's fine. But for me, it's just how much it engaged. So, for example, let's say out of 46 hours, I only enjoyed 6. So 6 divided by 46, I have a 13% engagement rate in the game out of 100.
Wow.
Bad. 13 out of 10. That's my score for the game. 0.13.
Woo.
Out of 1. Or 1.3 out of 10. Bad.
Well, it's harsh, but ultimately,
But I'm being
agree
honest.
with you.
I
Well,
enjoyed only 6 hours of the game.
No, right.
Right?
That's what I'm saying. Like, the reason why I say I think it's harsh is because I just never imagined someone like, like a company like IGN just coming out and being like, Destiny 2, 0.13 or whatever. Like, that's why I say it's harsh. But
Or
ultimately,
1.3
for
out
me,
of
I
10.
agree with you because I wouldn't touch Destiny with
But that's the point of
10-foot
us
pole,
making our own version of reviews. We're being honest to our viewers. Right?
Yeah, like
So
we're
look,
giving our opinion on it.
I mentioned it earlier as a point. David Jaffe's review of Resident Evil. He says middle of the game perfect, side stuff like beginning and the end garbage. Right. So let's put it in his terms. He played. I think his journey was like 10 to 12 hours. Or let's just say 10 hours for the sake of easiness. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say the middle portion for him took 6 hours, and then he had 2 hours in the beginning and 2 hours at the end. So he enjoyed 6 out of the 10 hours. So he has 60% engagement rate with the game. 60 out of 100, 6 out of 10. Simple.
Yeah, you know what's crazy though? Huh. I mean, that's like such a fair scale, but like, I remember that lady that you were talking about, the reviewer.
There's two. Alana Pierce.
Alana Pierce, yeah. So I remember in her video, I remember her
I
saying
can
something
barely
along
hear
the
you.
lines of,
Can you get closer to?
oh yeah, I remember her saying something along the lines of like, if a game is like a 5 out of 10, that's considered to be pretty bad already, I think.
In the eyes of people, but in their eyes, it's still an average game. 5 out of 10 is already like mediocre average. It's still not terrible.
What's an example of a game that's ever been given like a 1 out of 10? Because I just can't see like.
You're asking me to cherry pick here. Well, okay, look, an old game, you can look it up if you want as an example. Oh man, I forgot the name of the game.
Woo.
Well, you don't really think on 1 out of 10,
but that's
right?
what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like,
oh, Postal 3.
What the hell is Postal 3? I never heard
exactly. This is why you don't hear these things, because they got a 1 or 3 out of 10. But Postal 3 is this game where it's like this open world game where you're like literally a menace to society. You can piss on people, rip off their limbs and stuff, and do a bunch of crazy stuff. But it was just so poorly designed and made compared to the first 2 games that it got like the 3 out of 10 or whatever. Just garbage.
Huh.
That's an example.
But you see,
of
so
1 or 3 out of 10.
Wouldn't mostly, if a game was bad, wouldn't it still mostly land in their eyes at a 5?
Wouldn't you? No. I mean, that's the thing about critics, right? They felt that the game was so bad that they gave it 1 out of 10. Why don't you look up 1 out of 10 games? Just look it up. I mean, we have the keyboard and mouse right there, so let's just do it. But look, that's what I'm trying to say. It's like, because of the way that the system is right now, there's so much in the way of reviewing that people aren't being honest, right? But the reason why I want to do the reviews this way is because I want people who align with our opinions can understand. And the review isn't a statement on the quality of the game, but rather the enjoyment that we got. Because a game could be fantastic, and we only liked it for about an hour out of like the 10 hours of the game. But then we liked an indie game, which is way less in quality or whatever, for like 100% of the adventure. No, I don't want to. Let's just look it up like in an article or something. I don't want to like watch a video. Yeah, I don't want to watch a video right now. Let's just look up 1 out of 10 game articles or whatever. Yeah. So that's what makes it so hard, right? Because I want to be honest to people. 1 out of 10 video game. Rated video game. Yeah, worst rated video games. There you go. Perfect. Okay. So, Final Fantasy 14. What? 14.
Right?
What about it? I don't know. we're looking at Wikipedia right now. This isn't the most trustworthy. Wikipedia isn't most. Oh look, Metacritic. There you go. Just look at games that have been the worst reviewed of all time. You know. There's one game that I know for a fact that has a absurdly low score. I just don't remember the name of it, and it sucks because I actually like the game and I would give it a 5 out of 10. No. So, yeah. So that would be that's like almost it's almost a 3 out of 10. Well, but Metacritic is an amalgamation of multiple reviewers. Remember, it's hard for you to get a 1 when there's like so many reviewers weighing in their opinion. A 1 out of 10. Oh my god! I remember IGN reviewed it. Look, go to lowest reviewed games IGN. I'm sure we'll find the game. Lowest reviewed games IGN. For example. No. Go to an article, wherever. Oh, there you go. 58 games in IGN scored lower than a 2. So here you go. Now you can see a bunch of games that you can see that are considered the worst of the worst. For example, close off them emails. Don't be letting people see that stuff. You want to look up the game and see why they think it's such crap? It goes lower. It goes lower. Yeah. As you keep going, the score. Look, see, these are ones. These are like the worst games of worst game. Yeah, exactly.
Mega Man 1, the Contra. Whoa, 0.5.
Yep. IGN, they're saying that IGN gave a hockey game for the N64 a 0 out of 10. Oh, remove the 0.5 though, and then just put gameplay.
Wow.
Oh yeah, of course they're gonna crap on this, you know. Yeah, but if it's poorly made, it's still poorly made. Yeah, those games usually score low. There you go. You wanted a crap game? Well, you got it. Just capturing. It's a Wile E. Coyote trying to get the Roadrunner. Wow. Yeah. Essentially, what it is I'm assuming that the more you miss, the faster you go, and the faster you go, the closer you get to the Roadrunner. Yeah, this is. I mean, I could see why they would see this as bad, but this is like just a random flash game you played during middle school. You know, it doesn't look like an actual like fully developed game. What in God's name? I don't know what this. No, I'll keep it going. Yeah, look. So wait, but what was it? Real quick, just what was your point with all this? Yeah. Well, there's a lot of. Yeah, I mean, again, these are all things that are based on the reviewer. There are a lot of games that have made. I want to see this guy wins. I don't know why this is so entertaining. Look, he died. Scrub. There's a lot of games, right, that have like 5 out of 10s, and a lot of games that are considered mediocre or average in the industry. This is just normal. It's just normal in the industry. If you actually look up a bunch of 5 out of 10s on IGN, I'm sure you'll come up with like dozens and dozens of games that you might have felt different towards, like you might have felt, oh no, this is a little bit better than this, or this is actually a lot worse than this score. And again, because this is all subjective and it's not being honest to the engagement of the game. I think with our system, we're gonna have a lot more 0 out of 10s than anyone, and a lot more 10 out of 10s than anyone, because we're just gonna be straight up honest to how much we enjoyed the game based on what we paid.
First, maybe
Yeah. And honestly, the reason why I wanted to bring up this style of reviewing for us is because when we say a game, we're gonna say what we honestly felt. And the reason why is because I don't want to get to a case where we're openly shitting on a game for the sake of being critical about it, and then all of a sudden by doing that, we are shunning a game that could actually merit from good reviews, like Returnal. Like everyone shitted on Returnal. It's $70. No quick save. No saves coming. What is this? This is AAA. And then a lot of people were shunned from the experience for unknown stupidity. It doesn't make sense to me. And that's what I wanted to bring up with this, and why I think that if you agree with this, we could get away with doing this style of reviewing for all the games that we do now. And I could go ahead and start with that for this year, like just, you know, the few games that I played in Platinum. I could tell you right now.
Podcast.
Wait, hold on. I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
I was just saying, could you just summarize me what you said in like 5 words? Because,
Okay.
you know, I had to.
Like I was saying,
emergency
the
there.
reason. Okay, so just to recap, because I kind of forgot what I said, but essentially, there's a lot of games that get 5 out of 10s that we don't realize because it just goes over our head due to marketing and whatnot.
Most of the time, games that probably get 5 out of 10s are going to be the gems or the cornerstones of that year or
just straight up,
anyway.
or just straight up mediocre and whatever.
A lot of times I miss 10 out of 10, so imagine 5 out of 10s and 1 out of 10s even worse.
Honestly, there's no way to tell, but what I wanted to say in the honesty of our review style, if you agreed to do it, is that we'll just be genuinely honest about as to our experience of the game for what it's worth. And if people agree with us, then great. If they don't agree with us, then they're welcome to call in and give us a different opinion. And maybe they'll change the way we look at the game and we might enjoy it again. You know, it might change our opinion. I'm open to that. You know, our reviews can change. Unlike other critics, which like it's one and done, like ours might change.
You know what's a person I respect a lot for their approach to that? The Act Man. Because whenever he does a review, a lot of times he hears what his community says.
Wrong. No, I just had to say
it. If you know people tell him, hey, are you on crack, like this game's actually great, he'll like be like, okay, fine, I heard you guys, I'll do it again, and then he'll give it a second try. Like, you know, he did that with Battlefront 2, he did that with Destiny 2.
He still hated it. He hated it.
Yeah. And he did that with Cold War, that series. I believe he calls, because you know he usually makes videos called like, oh, why is this game so great, why is this game so bad, and he'll do one that's called oh, this game is now good, ? Or something like that. And that's like his revisiting series, which I give him kudos for doing, because a lot of the times these reviewers have their heads so far shoved up their butts that they just want to be like, no, I'm always right about the game. Or realistically, they're too busy covering new games that they don't want to revisit old ones to see if they're improved or not.
Right. Okay. No, it's fair. And like I said, if you agree with me on it, we'll go ahead and do it. And I'll go ahead and start on my first 2 games of the year and what I think about them. Well, first 3 games. I got one I want to shit on for no reason. But the point is, I think by fairly rating it based off engagement, we'll give a more honest opinion to our reviewers, and then we can showcase why. Like we'll do a live Let's Play, for example, and we'll just showcase like what we like or dislike of the game and whatnot, and the reason why we just started, what lost us in the game or what kept us engaged. And it's just simple. I'm not gonna name it like, oh, this game's a 10 out of 10 because it gave me an emotional response that's unparalleled. It's just going to be, this game's a 10 out of 10 because I enjoyed it, or is it a 0 out of 10 because it's crap? Yeah. Or I'm going to give it whatever score it is based on how much it entertained me.
And we should try to substantiate what we feel too, but...
Right. So, for example, Spider-Man, 6 to 8 hour adventure was the first game. Well, actually, no, hold on, I forgot. So, do you agree or disagree with the reviewing system? Do you think what I have is fair, or do you want to add or change anything?
Like doing it based off just enjoyment or whatever?
Yeah, it's just engagement think of it like engagement. That's what we're gonna call it. How much engagement can you derive from the game?
I think that's a good system, but honestly, I mean, with just going with what you said, I don't think there's enough there to cover for all the different types of games. I think you have to
we gotta
be a
go
little
case
bit more
by case
pensive.
on games that don't have a beginning or end.
Yeah.
Because, and like I said, for example, let's say I'm gonna put it like this. Let's say what's a good game? Okay, Paranormal Activity. Not Paranormal Activity. What the hell am I talking about?
Phasmophobia.
Phasmophobia.
Mm-hmm.
It's $13 right now on early release.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna base it based off how much I paid. If I get 13 hours of fun, it's 100% engagement. Done. Simple. It's based off of price. If the game's free to play, then we'll just leave it open ended, and it'll just be like, look, it's as far as you want to go with the game. Everybody will have an opinion. There's no opinion there. We can't really rate it. And then you can just rate it on your
like Among
experience.
Us. That's the hard one, right?
Okay.
It was
free.
It was like it got awards,
and then it was $5.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, there you go. If you enjoyed at least minimum 5 hours, I had 100% engagement.
It was fun. I personally ended up disliking it because of the community.
Right.
Plays
Okay.
it.
Okay. With a game like
So
that,
how
again,
do you- how
it's
do you,
hard.
like-
It's hard to score because you have to. The thing is that when you get a game like that, it's so open ended. It speaks to different types of players and people and their opinions. I don't like the idea of rating those, but for the sake of rating them, I guess. I mean, we can do it. For
Do
example,
we discard things that are like subjective and only look at objective things? Like, do we
but
personally
that's the
enjoy
problem. Because look,
the
for
art
example,
style, the
I don't
mechanics?
like PvP games. So for me, they're all
Mhm.
automatically zeros. Like F them. I don't care about PvP games, and I'm gonna literally shit on them in scoring because I don't like them.
Mhm.
Right? But that's unfair because I'm not giving them a shot. So obviously, I'm gonna give them a shot. In a case like a game like Phasmophobia, where it costs $13, I'm gonna derive it on how many hours I had fun per hour. I mean, per dollar, and then say. I wouldn't even give it a score. I would score it based off of like for 6 of hold on, let me see how I can do it. So let's say Phasmophobia is $13 and I enjoyed 6 hours. So 13 divided by 6, I got $2.60 worth of enjoyment per hour.
Mhm.
That's it. Just like an arcade game. I like to think of those as arcade games.
But like, let's
So
say,
I would score it based on how much money I would spend on that game in an arcade.
But you see that's where I also have problems too, because it's not just. I don't think engagement is the only thing you could really look at when you talk about games. It's like, did you enjoy the visuals? Did you enjoy the sounds? Like all that stuff.
all
also
those things,
has to be added.
all those things add to your engagement,
Mhm.
right? If the art sucks and it takes away from your experience and you don't want to play the game anymore, then that's what your engagement is. It
Mhm.
shuns you from that. That's how you explain your engagement, right? I could say Horizon looks beautiful. I could say Horizon's gameplay is engaging and fun. I could say I was interested to finish a story, but if the side quests don't challenge me, I feel like they're monotonous and boring. They're gonna take away from my experience. If I have a game, like for example, The Witcher 3 is great, but my first impression of it was kind of a little bit of ass, if I'm being honest, because as soon as I got past the first island or area or whatever, and I get to like the first big city, the frame drops just went poof, right to the ground. All my quests were broken and I couldn't play the game. So for me, I only, out of like a 200-hour adventure or 50-hour, let's say by campaign, it's a 50-hour game. I only got about 10 hours of the game before I could stop playing it. So I was only able to enjoy 20% of it. 20% of it. Can games be updated and become better? 100% totally agree. So will I revisit it later? Of course, and I'll change my score appropriately.
I guess
I'm basing it off of first impression. Basically.
I like how your scale is fluid.
Yeah.
And I like how it's predominantly based on your personal enjoyment of the game.
Yeah.
I just think that it's important to keep in mind the type of game that it is, and then also
it's a case by case basis.
If the engagement of a game isn't perfect, the question is, can a game still merit a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10 or like, whatever, a very high score based on its other merits, even though it failed to hold you all the way through to the end?
The problem is the way that I'm seeing it is that I'm completely taking away the old school critiquing of like, oh, this is it's a 1 through 10 type of score. I'm trying to just base it on how much entertainment you might have of it. It might be a 10 out of 10 game for you, but if you only enjoy 60% of it, then you have to acknowledge that only 60% of it is worth playing, right? And that's just personal opinion, right? Take for example Destiny. I enjoy Destiny. I love playing it. I think it's a great game, and I'll continue to buy all the expansions. Did I enjoy everything after the campaign? No, I did not enjoy the grind. I was not amused. So I only enjoyed about 6 hours of the game compared to the 46 I spent to get to the end of it.
But okay, so I know that obviously you already stated that like Destiny 2 in your eyes is like a 0.13 in that case. But
In
what
that
about
case, I'm being
what
honest.
about the visuals,
Yeah.
the gameplay, which you've always commented that you enjoyed,
The visuals, the gameplay, and
the
everything,
music,
that's awesome about it is what keeps me coming back.
Dude, would you say in that case, like, let's say, I mean, in your scale, would you look at a game like Final Fantasy and be like, okay, this is only based on how many hours I played? Like, the music out the window, don't care, bye. You don't do anything to the score. Graphics, bye. You don't do anything to the score.
You should promote what keeps you engaged, right? If I were to say, despite the fact that that the game was boring, the gameplay was so much fun that it trumped the boredom, then I would score Destiny as 100% engagement. But because despite all the things I enjoy about it, I could not get past how tedious and monotonous the tasks were. To me, that's the score I give it because of that, right? Despite the fact that graphics are amazing, gameplay is amazing, the 60 FPS update was phenomenal. The art, I mean, the music is still as it still captivates my imagination the way it did when the original Destiny came out. That doesn't change the fact that I still disliked most of the expansion, right? So in a game like, for example, Horizon, where the art style and all that stuff kept me enjoying the game, it made me wanna see and find the stuff that I enjoyed about the game to the point where I scored it an 80, because I believe that's the experience. Despite the fact that no matter what, those 2 hours where I was completely disconnected and bored from the game, nothing can change it.
Fair.
Right? No matter how good something is, I'm being honest. I'm not going to say, oh, well, I don't mind that it was a little boring because the art was great or because the graphics were top tier. I'm going to be honest. These 2 hours sucked. You will probably experience the same thing I did. These 2 hours are going to suck for you. I'm not saying this is I'm giving a hypothetical. I'm going to replay the game and reevaluate how I think about it, but I'm just remembering and using it as an example. If I tell you these 2 hours sucked and that's why I'm telling you you're going to dislike these 2 hours, it's up to you to decide whether you like it or not. But to me, it just sucked. And that's why I give it that score. It's simple.
That's fair.
With games like what you're saying, the problem is that with party games like Smash Bros. And all that, there's no end or beginning. It's just, you have to base it off of how valuable those dollars are for you. If those like say you only played 2 hours of that game, but those 2 hours were the best experience of your life, and the game cost $60, then each hour was $30, and those $30 are worth just to play the hour. You see what I'm saying?
So that also factors into how good I think it is. Well,
exactly. And
then when we're explaining or justifying our opinion of the game,
we have to go case by case.
Yeah, we could throw in the reasons why, or the reasons why we dislike it as well. So we just don't say, Destiny sucks, 0.13 out of 10 or whatever.
Well, I will, because there's a beginning and an end, and there's a progress.
I don't think you should be lazy about it either.
I'm not being lazy.
But if you just say Destiny 0.13 out of 10, I don't care.
I'm gonna review it. Look,
I'm
gonna say these quest lines suck. The gameplay, while great, did not challenge me. I feel like it was a bit dull. Like I felt like I'm gonna explain my experience. I was running forward and just killing enemies. I didn't feel like the best moments were when stasis was being used against me, which is used throughout the entire main campaign, and then it just disappears from the rest of the game. And then all of a sudden, I'm a godlike being that destroys the entire map, but nothing challenges me. I felt bored. I wanted to be challenged. I wanted to see the enemies use the stasis ability to attack me. I wanted to see more enemy combinations. I wanted to see more variations, like with different types. Maybe, bring back the splicer fallen to bring back to bring more of a cybernetic connection to I know for story reasons they can't, but the point is they could have done all that, right?
Yeah.
So for example, Spider-Man, through and through, 100%. I enjoyed it. To me, 10 out of 10, 100%. 100 out of 100, fantastic game. It may not be a masterpiece. To me, it was. I enjoyed it. It was 100%. I think people will, from start to finish, enjoy the game 100%, and it'll be worth their money. It's only $40.
I think that's fair.
Exactly. Godfall pissed me off. I don't know how long the game is, but I only played an hour, so I had only an hour of fun and enjoyment. I don't even think I made it to an hour. That's how much I disliked it. So for me, that game's probably less than a 10. Less than a 1. It's probably bad. I'll revisit it. They've updated it. I'll change it, and maybe I'll change my score.
Well, there's one thing that I can say about your rating scale that I can't about others is that it's not afraid to be brutal.
Brutal and honest. That's it.
Brutal and honest. So I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think honestly, you and me have had some pretty contentious conversations in the past. So,
but I felt like we weren't being honest.
Yeah, if we invite a scale like that where it's just pure honesty, I feel like the discussions
Look,
will be even
think
better.
Think about it like this. Think about it like this, right? And this is in your case. I'm not going to say this is the case. Obviously, we have to encourage ourselves to kind of play through the game to get the full experience, right?
Right.
But let's say like this. Let's say you enjoy Bloodborne. You play 2 hours. The game's 20 hours long, and you got bored of it. You put it down. You never pick it up again. To me, in my mind, you had a 10% enjoyment rate.
Mhm.
That game's a 1 out of 10 to you in your eyes. No matter how much you enjoyed those 2 hours, you gave up playing. What took you off? What disengaged you? What keeps you from
Well-
coming back? I'm not saying this is an actual
No,
case.
right,
I'm giving you an example.
But I mean,
I'm giving you an
ultimately, there's
example.
also considerations there because let's say something horrible happens and my life gets bent out of shape and I'm no longer able
right.
to
No,
play it. Like,
there's obviously situations. I understand.
right. And then you also probably shouldn't give a review on a game that's just an incomplete experience to you. or
Right,
whatever.
you
So-
shouldn't. But you have to invite the fact that at one
Well,
point,
no, if it loses you,
you
then,
have to at one
whatever.
point you have to be honest. I played an hour, and after that hour, the game completely lost me. I felt disconnected. I disliked this game. I never want to play
but
it
let
again.
me ask you something. As a reviewer, don't you think it's problematic if you don't finish a game? Because what if let's say it hits a slump, but then it manages to pick you up again later,
Right,
and then
but
you never find out.
That's the freedom of our review style, is that it allows you to voice your opinion on whether you hate a game or not.
Yeah.
If you're critiquing something based on the entirety of a product, then you should play the game from beginning to end because you're reviewing a product in its entirety. But if we're going to review Hour where it's just an engagement rate and how much we enjoyed it versus how much we didn't, you are free to say, hey, after an hour, this game died in my eyes. It's
Mhm.
garbage. You are free for that. Should you go back and replay it? Maybe, especially if everyone disagrees and says, hey, this game's actually pretty great. Like, what's wrong with you? You know, kind of like what you said about the Axeman going back and replaying games. And that invites us to do more things like that, to revisit games and maybe change your opinion. But you should, in this way, I invite people who have that opinion that say, hey, you know what? I legit did not like this game. But be honest. Don't just be an asshole just for the sake of trolling. I'm not going to listen to people who just troll. If somebody says something stupid like that, I'm not saying it's stupid, but I'm going to be like, okay, why don't you come on the show and tell me why? And let's have a proper discussion / debate, because you have to literally have an honest reason as to why this game turned you off after an hour. I'm being honest. PvP games, I don't like them. So it's always going to turn me off after an hour or two, no matter what it is. I mean, it's very rare that a game will keep me engaged for longer. Overwatch gave me about 10, 15 hours, right? I'm being honest. I enjoyed it for a lot more.
Mhm.
But that's it. I mean, I don't like PvP games, so I'm not going to enjoy it that much longer.
I think that's fair.
Fair?
I think that's more than fair. Yeah.
Okay.
So going forward, if we review a game, now you guys know how it is. We're just gonna give it to you how it is. We're gonna give you a straight opinion. And while a game might have some redeeming qualities, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's gonna be the toppest of top tiers.
Exactly. I think that it's going to be fair. It's going to be interesting. And so now here's the second part. Now that we agreed on using this format, I'm going to draw a plan on a notebook or whatever for the sake of, showing it on camera. I'm not drawing it today, but essentially I'm going to draw, because of console wars, to invite the fun of it, I'm going to draw a map that's going to put Sony, Microsoft, or whatever, PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, Indies. Should we put I don't think we should put PC, right? Because everything's on PC now, or it's coming to PC.
Like a PC game isn't. I don't know how to put it. Like, I mean, I don't even think exclusive should. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't think that we should look at the system to where something belongs. Like, you should just look at the game as an individual product.
Well, I'm putting it. The reason why I want to do it is because I want to invite the ideas, like which people say, oh, Xbox this or PlayStation won that year or whatever. I want to put it into honesty. Because what if
you just
this
look at
year
it console
Nintendo
sold, man.
just gives me 100% of enjoyment, and the rest of them give me shitty games?
You just put it into console sold. I think that's just the only way you really measure
Nah, I don't know.
which one won where.
I want to put it in the front of our
That's the
eyes.
desire. That's literally the desire of people to
buy that.
buy
Yeah.
that. Because if you look at it, the Switch right now isn't top dog,
Right,
but like
but-
Pokemon like outsold pretty much the majority of like every other like franchise outside of like I think GTA. But
Right.
like, are you just gonna automatically say Nintendo reigns like
No,
hail
yeah, but
supreme
that's the
because
thing. I don't want
Pokemon, like,
to. I don't
outsells
want to
everything?
base it off of. I want to base it off of an average of the total scores that we get when we review games. Right. So, for example, I always evangelize PlayStation as being the greatest thing in the world. But what if this year, all of a sudden, Xbox has the better games? I have to be honest and say, hey, Xbox had the better games this year. It challenges me to be unbiased and honest.
That's true.
It challenges both of us.
But also, I mean, I guess, but also like, don't you have to look at like console performance and stuff too,
No,
like other outstanding issues
no.
and all that? When
This
you talk
is-
about that?
It's just pure games. Like, what company offers you what it does?
when people talk about console wars, though, the thing is that they don't just stop at the game. Like they
Yeah,
say
yeah,
they say
but
the Switch is like the frame
Yeah, but-
machine, where everything you play turns into like
a PowerPoint
a muddy
presentation.
mess, and
Yeah. Well, I mean, Witcher 3 is 144p on Switch, so I mean,
but that's what I'm trying to say. Like people will
okay.
debate these things,
But that's
whether
why-
or not
that's
you
why-
want to
that's why-
include them.
Well, but that's their version of debate. We're just coming in a conversation with our viewpoint, and I think it would be a pretty nice experiment.
I mean, I do think you have
Right?
to still
And
consider
look,
all that
I
stuff.
want to consider that we shouldn't on based on that specific format and that system. I only want to put it exclusives. I don't want to put multi-platform because if you enjoy a game in anywhere, you're gonna enjoy it everywhere. Whether your experience is slightly better or worse depending on the graphical capacity of your system, that's unknown. But let's say Spider-Man, PlayStation, Halo, Xbox, Legend of Zelda, Nintendo. Which game was better? Whoever it is, that's the console that wins that year. Based on the amount of games that was, this company
Well,
and
the
this
other thing,
console
too, is
offered me
that
this.
We would have to specifically play each one.
Yeah, I know. I want to do that in the future because obviously I don't have an Xbox. Obviously I don't have a PC to play Xbox Game Pass, and obviously I don't have a Switch, nor the money to keep up with buying all those games. But if we ever do this, I think that would be a fun experiment where year by year we can rate which company offers us the better games and truly determine which console won which year. Which the console is going to win is the one that offers us the better products. I don't know. I think it would be a pretty interesting experiment.
I mean, overall it's pretty useless, but it's good entertainment, I guess. And
It's
then
entertainment.
you spoke the fires
Because
of
that
the
could be
console
like,
war.
Sony's the greatest thing in the world. And then all of a sudden, Legend of Zelda was better than everything I play. It's like, damn. Maybe Sony isn't the greatest thing in the world, At least not for this year.
Yeah.
You
We'd have to get you there though, because I don't even think you play the Legend of Zelda games. Like,
well, no. I'm talking about like new games. I'm obviously not gonna go back and be like,
No,
yeah,
of
dude,
course, but I'm just saying, like,
1990.
we have to get you there because I don't think you haven't experienced those. I
Well,
mean,
look,
from the point forward, I guess. once we
I
get
played
there.
various Legend of Zelda games. Most of them are the ones on the 3DS. I played Ocarina of Time, beaten it. I've played a little bit of Skyward Sword and Twilight Princess, not too much. I've played a little bit of Wind Waker. And I beat the original game, of course, by saves coming. But the point is, yeah, I do want to have a point where if we ever grow and we get the support that we need from viewers or whatever, we can buy all these consoles and put it to the test. Like, put the console wars to test for real. In an
Okay.
unbiased situation where we speak our opinions based off the rating system we just provided for gaming, which we should use.
I think that's fair.
I think that would be an interesting experiment to see. Like, I could say, oh, Nintendo will never surprise me with a good game. And then all of a sudden Nintendo does, and then it's like fiddlesticks,
Fiddle faddle. I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah.
I guess we should probably wrap it up because we're going on 3 hours.
Yeah, I don't have much else to say. That's all I kind of wanted
Yeah.
to say in terms of my piece.
Let me.
Again, hold on real quick. Again, thank you to David Jaffe for letting me say my piece on the show. I hope to provide. I hope to come on when I have something nice to say or something interesting to add to the conversation. I don't want to be like one of those dull people that just never do anything. And yeah, I'm proud to be a diet soda soldier. And I hope to, see where his journey goes. He's doing pretty great. And if any of our listeners want to listen to somebody who will give you their straight, honest opinion, you're free to go watch a show. And hopefully one day, he'll feel inclined to come on our show and give us his knowledge and his viewpoint on development, video game development, and programming, so that we can kind of gain and combine that with our philosophy on gaming, right?
Yeah,
that's what I hope for.
So that being said, thank you guys so much for coming on and listening to us or watching us. Just so you guys know, we did add the capacity for call-ins now. So we are taking call-ins. In fact, if any of you guys are watching and you want to have a conversation with us, either please let us know in the chat. You could type something, or you could go ahead and join our Discord, which the link is in the description of both our YouTube video and of our
Twitch.
Of our Twitch.
I know. Is it on the bus?
Realize why we haven't had that much viewers today.
Why? I'll get it.
Do you see what the title is of the video?
Live with Restream. Perfect. Well, why didn't the title switch though?
I don't know. I think it's because I didn't go to the Restream website to reset it. So, well, we're still learning, right? That's why we're only on episode 26. We're still new guys. We're still learning the.
Oh yeah, I mean,
the ins
there's
and
always
out of
for as
everything here.
much as I knew it. We spent an hour over the time that I thought we were gonna start, and we still.
Well, we learned how to do the Discord, so there you go. We're
Whatever.
new. We're noobs. What
Whatever.
can we say?
Tuesday is gonna be great, and whatever.
This is
Just-
literally you. I don't even think you made it to a year of content creation yet. So like we're beginner content creators. You know, we're gonna make these mistakes,
Yeah.
but
But
we're
that's what I
learning.
was trying to say. We're gonna make mistakes anyway. All right.
Yeah. So
I'm very happy for what we did today. Whether people hear it or not, that's up to them. I don't
well,
care.
I think this episode was good enough where people are gonna come to it later. It's just sad that we didn't do our due diligence in making sure that
Mhm.
the show was up to snuff for
Yeah,
the people
and
who
hopefully next time,
like
next
watching
week,
us live.
hopefully next week my ass won't hurt as much and I can sit straighter.
Ew. But
Yeah.
anyways, guys, so we did set up a Discord in case you want to talk to us. I was trying to find you guys a link. Let me pull it up maybe on the Twitch here. You can find it in the description of the video afterwards, or you can go ahead and look in. If you're listening on Buzzsprout, check out the description of the podcast episode, or look at our Twitch and you'll see it in the description there as well, or
Great.
in the About Me section.
Wonderful.
Um,
Can't wait.
yeah, and oh my lord, can I please look at the About Me section so I can give you guys a link?
Yeah.
So the Discord. Oh my lord. All right. About.
Don't worry, man. Take your time.
Don't worry.
Take your time. The MCA strike.
See if I send you this.
Oh no.
And not. Should I just do a new link? Okay, no, actually, I thought exactly the same. One of our. I'm bad, dude. I didn't.
Dude, just redo the link. I mean, I don't
I
think we should have the link on description. We should just provide
Well,
it.
it's a
on
complicated
chat.
link anyway, so people aren't gonna. I don't know if I should say it, but it's too late. I already did the effort to get there, so I'm just gonna say it on the air. Whatever. If you'd like, go to https://discord.gg/FM4AEN6N85. You could go ahead and join our Discord and give us a call in at any time, and we'll be more than happy to have a conversation with you guys.
Of course.
So,
Anytime.
that being said, do remember we have a Patreon. There's tons of different ways you can support us on there, and a bunch of different tiers. In case you're interested, you do get rewards for doing that. Or if you'd simply like to support us in another way, we'd have some fresh merch that you could buy off of our merch store. The link to that is always in the description of all those things that I mentioned as well. Pretty much that's it. Don't forget to follow me and Jordan on our personal socials. That's at Michael C. Moore for me and at JG_Mark1 for Jordan. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. I've been your co-host, Michael C. Moore.
I'm your other co-host, Jordan G. Marcos.
And until next time, happy gaming.